The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations that have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham Estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, should we say, interest by the police in what are very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey Epstein for Jeffrey Epstein's financial.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Welcome. What is it? 2 minutes past 6. You're very welcome to Talk Breakfast, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brett, don't know what you're doing this morning. Don't know where you're at. And maybe returning from the night shift, dragging your backside out of bed, wondering how you're going to get through the day. Listen, this is where you get the news, the politics, everything you need to tell you about what's going on in the world. And as ever, we want your views on the news of the day. We want you to be involved, alarm clock, Brett, right? Otherwise, it's just us for 4 hours talking tripe. 0344 499 1000. The A-team are in the building. Christian is here, raring to go in one of his trendy jumpers. Big Mark's pushing the buttons. Dodgy Damien is taking your calls, and Neha's providing a degree of quality in a sea of mediocrity. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. There we go again. What can I say? It turns out, I mean, this story, it's in every single newspaper about Scott Mills. You heard us talk about it yesterday. I'm sure the guys and the ladies have been talking about it on Talk for the last 24 hours. Scott Mills, the Radio 2 breakfast presenter, the guy that was unceremoniously sacked on, well, I think it was Monday or over the weekend, taken off air. It all went to a historical police investigation. In detail, it was something that happened, according to sources, between 97 and 2000 when he was on local commercial radio. But we find out today that the bosses at the BBC, yet again in a quandary, knew that he was being quizzed by cops over sex offences against a boy who was under 16. This is in 2016. Yes, they investigated at the police and then said, no, nothing to see here, we're not charging him. So, number one, the BBC knew, right, knew that he was being investigated, kept it on air, remained tight-lipped, knowing that he'd been interviewed between 2018 and 2019, right? This is really interesting, isn't it? And then last week, for whatever reason, we don't know yet, is there new information that's going to come out in the Sandy paper interview? I don't know. We suggested yesterday on the show, which other people picked up on, I have to say, that maybe watching that Hugh Edwards documentary inspired or encouraged somebody, the same person, a different person, to come forward. Either way, the BBC, yet again, in a mess, because they said we knew nothing about it. Now they're overnight saying we did know something about it. Have they acted quickly with Scott Mills because of past performance? Think Savile, think Stuart Hall, think Rolf Harris. if they haven't, I don't know the facts. How can you sack somebody who's been found not guilty by the police, or rather, there wasn't enough evidence to go forward? It's a really, really interesting. Piers Morgan wading into it last night saying it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. And let's just question the BBC this morning, shall we? This is the same BBC that over the last year has bombarded 46 million households with letters going, if you don't pay us 175 quid to watch our station, we are going to sue you. Where is the morality of the BBC? And can I just say before we start, right, what the hell is this BBC Radio 2 breakfast show? I was talking yesterday, I was thinking, so if you wanted debate on news and politics and you wanted, you know, that given to you, you'd listen to Talk Breakfast. If you wanted sport, you listen to Big Al and Brazil on Talk Sport. And if you wanted music, you listen to the best music DJ in the land, which is Chris Evans, who's right next door to me on Virgin. So what are we messing about at? We'll say a very good morning to the legend. She's turned up. Morning, Lady Rowley.
Good morning.
Happy April Fool's Day.
Well,
tell them what I did to you.
I've just about recovered. I walked in, didn't I? Strutting down the corridor, skipping almost.
Mincing, I'd say.
Mincing, excited to see you again, reunited again on a Wednesday morning.
Reunited like
and I was hit with the look of shock and dismay by all of the team.
Yes.
And you asked me what I was doing here, didn't you?
Well, this is a result of you not turning up a couple of weeks ago for Ian Collins when he was on breakfast, bless him.
And did you said somebody else was sitting in today, and I thought, oh my gosh, have I turned up by mistake? Have I got the day wrong?
Well, I don't think it was an April Fool's. I just think it was genuine shock that you'd actually turned up for work. Charlie, so much to talk about. Looking forward to getting your take and yours, alarm clock Brit. So 344 499 1000. Who's going to get that first voice note in front of the Sun, front of almost every paper? Today we discover the BBC knew about the Scott Mills probe. You've followed this, you've watched this. What's your take?
Well, what you said at the start was absolutely right. There are there's a history to Scott Mills where allegations were made where inappropriate behaviour took place between, I think it's 1997 and 2016.
97 and 2000 when he was in commercial radio. Nothing came out until, let's be perfectly honest, the U-Tree investigation with all that surrounded Savile and all of that. He was interviewed under caution at that moment. The controller of Radio 1 was a man called Ben Cooper. He knew about it, kept him on air. The police then did not follow through. So if there was no evidence, and I'm not sticking up for or criticising Scott Mills, why was he allowed to stay on air? Because he wasn't guilty. Then why has he been dragged off air?
Well, and that's the problem. And those are the questions that the BBC have got to answer because, as you said, look, you know, in light of the drama of Hugh Edwards, the drama that's taking place on Channel 5.
Did you watch it, by the way?
I haven't.
I watched it at the weekend with Vic, and I have to say, I said to Den yesterday, extraordinary. Martin Clunes, world class. Quite dark, but does, I think, question so many things. Really should watch it.
And it's also on the week where I think Tim Davie, the Director General of the BBC, is leaving. So to get, on his way out, basically to try and probably clear out any...
It was his last action. You make a really good... The last action was to get rid of Scott Mills. I am not sticking up for Scott Mills or criticising Scott Mills. I don't have an opinion. I do, it's private. What I would say is, again, a complete lack of consistency from the BBC. They do not seem to know their backside from their elbow, do they?
Well, they need to be absolutely clear and honest and open about what these allegations are. They can't hide it behind closed doors now. They can't try and back this away because there will be two sides of this. There'll be, in the one camp, you'll have people that say, well, hold on, this was historical allegations. They were investigated.
Jeremy Vine said that yesterday when he's also on that stuff. Why are you listening to... Just go to Chris Evans. What the hell's going on here? Go on.
Yeah, it was historical. Somebody might have just tried to regurgitate some allegations that were investigated in the past. That case was closed, so people's lives can move on because you don't know who may be making these kinds of allegations, and it could have been in light of things like the Hugh Edwards scandal. But people, do have, I think, a right to move on with their lives if allegations are investigated and concluded, and it is concluded that there is nothing to pursue. So,
I think I'm going to say something that I didn't think I was going to say, which is, and again, I'm going to make the point all day, this isn't pro or anti-Scott Mills. One of the things, having been through press scrutiny myself, one of the things that I always thought afterwards was, and maybe people, I'd love to know what you think about this. If you're in the public eye, right, somebody can make a complaint about you and name you and you're screwed. Straight away, whether you're innocent or you're guilty. because that tends to be published, right? And a judgment is made. If that accusation is not seen through, the person who's made that accusation, their anonymity continues and they get on with their lives. That is not me justifying any bad behaviour, because I want all those people inside the BBC and across life who have done something wrong to be called out. Maybe we could try a different tack this morning and say BBC Radio 1 standing by Scott Mills in 2016 when he wasn't found guilty. Is that not important to stand by people until... Are we not innocent until proven guilty? I haven't changed my whole opinion, but I do think that if you are... We've talked to Chris and all sorts of people about this. If you're out and somebody says, oh, that bloke did... And there it is in the newspaper. Well, hold on a minute. Now I'm being judged before, and people will say, you deserve that. You're in the public eye. There's quite a moral issue there as well.
I'll totally say, absolutely. And that's why the BBC have got to be on the front foot here to say, no, it's because of new allegations, or it's because of actually an investigation that's taking place, or because there might be more details. That just the BBC have decided to take a more robust approach to its presenting lineup, maybe in light of learning lessons, in inverted commas, as they will say, on the back of the Hugh Edwards scandal, where somebody had made complaints.
He's still getting his pension, though. He's a paedophile and he's walking free.
So, and still questions to answer.
I'd rather the BBC was more robust in getting the £200,000 pension or payoff that Hugh Edwards got back, so they're not bombarding 46 million licence fee-paying households with letters saying we're going to prosecute you. Adams in Chester, with respect to the recent Scott Mills situation, I reckon it's to do with the appointment of a new DG, Director General. It seems plausible that the incoming leadership has requested the removal of any potential controversies or skeletons in advance in order to start with a completely clean slate and avoid the kind of issues that have arisen in the past. Adam, you might well be right, but I'll tell you this, mate, if getting rid of Scott Mills is the BBC's answer of getting rid of all the skeletons in their closet, I think they're in trouble. Morning, Pete.
Well, this must be the final nail in the coffin of the BBC TV licence. The legalised extortion that we're all expected to pay to finance a corporation that, if you look back over the last 15, 20 years, harbours God knows how many paedophiles and other sorts of wrong-uns. Why must this be allowed to carry on? Is it a magnet there for them to go to? Is there something else that attracts them there to this BBC? It's a disgusting thing to have in this country as probably your supposed national broadcaster. Really, really is now time for the BBC to go and time for Labour to go. Have a great day, Jezza.
Yeah, I'm sure I won't. On a serious note, that's the point to me. People said yesterday, I was listening, saying, why are you going on and on about this story? Because we are forced, I have to say, sorry, to pay a licence fee for an organisation that is supposed to be our state broadcaster and unbiased, and my opinion is that it is not unbiased. It's actually far from balanced. It is completely biased. And then you hear about all of these sordid accusations, and yes, of course, for all the do-gooders in all major institutions, there will be, bad eggs, rotten eggs, wrong uns, whatever you want to say. But it's just the way the BBC respond to it. And they make much capital, don't they, in saying, oh, we do this and we've got that and we care about this and we won't mention that Hamas is a terrorist organisation and we're going to do... Well, get your own house in order before you pass judgment. And I think, to bombard 46 million licence fee payers with, if you don't pay, we're going to sue you and send you to jail, is disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the double standards and the hypocrisy of how they're treating people and the licence fee payer. As you say, all those people getting that letter, 46 million, to say, pay up, cough up.
Or you're going to jail.
Or we're going to jail. That is too heavy-handed. That's a sledgehammer to crack a nut of people that might just have chosen, actually, some, not to pay, because of the scandals, because they don't like the content on the BBC. But this is why I think, actually, if you want my own view, I think the BBC have done the right thing to get rid of Scott.
What, that quickly?
Yes.
OK.
Because I...
Maybe they know more. Maybe there is more to it that we don't know about.
And even, I know, we've got to read beyond the headline, but, if it is the case that it is proven that, some of these allegations, date back to, the headline was the teenager and he was under 16, the communication or whatever it was.
So if he was under 16, and when Vine came out yesterday and went, oh, he's our friend, blah, 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 and I went, an hour later it was released that the boy was under 16, we're just going with what was said. Of course.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, why wasn't he found guilty then?
Well, that's why we need all the information. But I think if you have that kind of communication, and that is on the books of the BBC, the trouble that the BBC have got is just the pool of presenting talent that they have. I do think some of them are allowed to just become too powerful, and therefore, so, Hugh Edwards, for example, constantly relied upon to present the news, present all of the, ceremonial celebrations, like with the Queen's funeral, like with the Jubilee celebrations. These are big set-piece events, as if they can't turn to anyone else, knowing that actually there were complaints, historical complaints relating to Hugh
I don't
Edwards.
think they know which way to go, do they? Either there's you're being investigated, you're off air while we get some facts, or we're standing by you. But no, we're not standing by you now. It's just very confusing. This will throw you all, by the way. 0344 499 1000. Pete, he says, is there the same moral obligation, much as difficult this is to say, to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, because he wasn't found guilty of anything at the moment, so surely he's innocent until proven guilty?
Well,
I mean, we're back there again, aren't we? Do we judge too quickly? I don't know.
No, but look, I think but Andrew Mountbatten Windsor had a continued relationship with a convicted paedophile. So I think whether there isn't a criminal judgment to be had, because you're right, he hasn't gone through the courts. There is certainly a moral one, and that man was morally bankrupt. Because
I don't know why I'm taking this stance this morning, but if there's a moral, we're having a good conversation. If there's a moral responsibility, is it morally right for us all to assume that Scott Mills has done something wrong? I don't know, by the way, don't have a go at me, but the fact that the police 7 years ago found him not guilty, but this is why I don't care what anybody says, and I'm going to put this to you. I said to Christian yesterday, I know how papers work. Drip, 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 drip. I suspect, and I could be wrong, that Sunday will see a big expose from the person who has come forward, and whether there must be something more for them to have acted this quickly, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think, look, if there was nothing there, then you would have thought you'd be Team Scott Mills, and if he was in his PR operation, you'd be coming out straight out the traps to say, I'm deeply disappointed in my employee, they've acted far too quickly. You'll see, there's nothing to see here, these were allegations that are investigated. I've been totally cleared, I'll be exonerated, and I'll sue the BBC for unfair dismissal. You would have thought he'd come out with something really robust in order to counter the narrative, because as you say, it's going to be drip, drip, drip. He is a very well-known broadcaster, not just Radio 2. He presents Eurovision. He was on Strictly Come Dancing. These are big BBC hit shows. So he is well-known to a lot of people. But the BBC, I do think they have probably been right in this case, but it's the consistency that people want. And because, as I say, it goes to the power, whether it's Scott Mills that was able to exercise a lot of power and authority over people and individuals and create that kind of culture, whether it was Hugh Edwards, whether it was Gary Lineker that became far too powerful for the BBC. They're not able to, clip his tails, basically, when he was sort of tweeting things that were impartial, that didn't follow the standards that you'd expect of the BBC. And, I would suspect a lot more people will actually be prepared to pay the licence fee if they knew that there was more of a rotating pool of talent.
We had the debate yesterday. I have no idea. And I keep saying it. I'm not being disrespectful to the BBC, because I'm very strong on what I think, right? It's a state broadcaster that's biased, right? It makes some really good dramas. Yes, Traitors. Yes, Strictly. I don't understand in 2026 how they are not made to play on the same playing field that the rest of us are, because if your programmes are that good, people will subscribe. The reason people get hacked off and the reason people have a right to an opinion is we are paying for this, so it has to be open-minded. Here's a good question for you. BBC Verify? Do you think they should start by verifying their own staff? Says Alex. It's a very, very good point. Damon, good morning, Jez, and the beautiful Sir Charlie. Oh, here we go. Once again, the BBC haven't learnt any lessons about the Scott Mills files. When will they ever get their house in order, and when will they be held to account by their actions? It's time the BBC was gone or streamed, because the nation's broadcaster has turned into a joke, and it's time the government... It's time the government, started to ask what the hell is going on. Thank you. I'm going to answer you. Who said that? You see, no name. Stop babbling on about Scott Mills and get Carl Turner on. Yeah, well, let me just tell you something, right? The Scott Mills, it's not about Scott Mills, it's about the BBC, which matters to the viewers and the listeners. But you're right to raise the point that Carl Turner, arch critic of the Labour government, I mean, to the point where he's been on this show yesterday was suspended from Labour. He had the whip removed. He said, I don't believe Morgan McSweeney's phone was nicked. I don't actually believe that this jury thing is a good idea under Calamity Lammy. Well, guess what? Whoever sent that text, I will stop blabbering soon. After 9 o'clock, nobody else got it. Carl Turner, first interview on Talk on Breakfast. So stuff that where the sun don't shine. With the greatest of respect to 20 past 6.
Well, we look
on April Fool's Day. I'm slightly worried about April Fool's Day. Do you ever think that somebody's going to get you?
Well, you did outside earlier on, so I feel as though I've had my share already of the April Fool's jokes, but I'll now be on alert and guard for the rest of the day.
Right, now listen, only to lunchtime. As well as this BBC thing, loads of other news, and we will get to all of it. Starmer today branded weak for sending King Charles on that official state visit to woo Donald Trump, who basically said you can get your own oil, you can do one, I'm not interested. That'll be an interesting royal trip. Also, if you have a hospital or doctor's appointment today, you should know that the UK is just days away from running out of common drugs due to the Iran war. Not on the streets, but certainly in hospitals. The head of NHS England, Sir Jim McKay, I don't know if that's his name, is really worried about supplies, which include stocks of aspirin, codeine, antidepressants and HRT medication, plus syringes and gloves. So there'll be no petrol, no medication. We're utterly, utterly screwed. And I don't know if you heard the big news overnight, the deal with the French yesterday. You know the 500 million that we were paying them. It's fine. Okay, we've done a deal overnight. They're only getting 2 million a week to police the channel, so we're only giving them 100 million. Oh, well. I'll just give you 100 million for doing absolutely nothing. So Carl Turner after 9, we'll talk royals, we'll talk doctors, we'll talk France and migration, and for that man who said babbling, we will most definitely talk about the BBC. Morning, Damien.
Morning, Jezza. Damien from Milton Keynes, alarm clock Britain, up at 5 o'clock this morning, on the road at 5:30 to go to London. Right, let's just get this all straight and ironed out. We've got a monarchy in disarray. We've got Andrew Mountbatten Windsor going around the world for the last 30, 40 years, doing all sorts, right? We've got a government who's ripping us off left, right and centre. Multiple areas of the government have had their politicians sacked due to multiple different reasons. We've got now more disarray in the government because of a stolen mobile phone, ripping us off left, right and centre with multiple increases in VAT and tax and what have you not. And now we've got the BBC with yet another claim. I mean, what is going on in this damn country of ours? And not only that, we can't police the streets. So there's multiple violent disorders, and to top it all off, it's raining and it's not summer yet. I mean, what is going on in this country? And we've got the rape gang case. Oh, let me guess, another Islamic Pakistani problem. This country is in the depths of hell. It is shambles. Sorry for the rant. Thank you very much. Have a great show. Cheers, Jezza.
Well, that's a nice approach. But he's right, isn't he? That's the point. The reason, that's what alarm clock Brits think. They think, oh, I'm working again. It's raining. Well, move. Well, and because it's not raining here. And do you know what I mean? And then you just think, what is the point? There is so much wrong. And the Tories refuse to accept that Britain's broken.
Well, apart from all of that, it's going incredibly well.
Yes, I thought we were doing fine on April Fool's Day. Welcome to the show, 6:24. If you want to be on 0344 499, what is it, 499 1000, and please send your text 87222. We're back in 3.
Labour seem to have an almost obsession about what they call the vulnerable.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:26. It's JK and the lovely Charlie Roddy. We're looking at the papers this morning on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense, and of course the home of the alarm clock Brit. Hello to Keith? Kev. And to think the BBC dumped the late, great Steve Wright for Scott Mills leaves me breathless. Additional heads should roll at the corporation. It's time for change. Simon in Durham says, on the BBC, Jez, it's simple. Cancel the licence fee. Sorted. I did it 6 years ago and I've never looked back. Listen, for me, I'm not going to sit here on this station. Nobody at Talk's going to condone not paying your licence fee. But when you read that the BBC bombarded 46 million households last year with letters warning of prosecution, you think of what they deliver, you think about how they do it, and most of all, you think that we, as payers, have a right to an opinion. You hear scandal after scandal. There's no doubt in my mind why people feel like they do about the BBC. Morning, Anna.
Morning, Jez. Anna, sorry. So reference the factumentary, whatever you want to call it, that you've just watched. If BBC have covered up this much for their presenters, can you imagine what they've covered up for the government? Imagine what dirty little secrets the BBC have kept quiet there. Oh, my word. Now I doubt everything I've ever heard on the news. Dear me, Jez.
Well, don't ever doubt anything on this station. As I've said to you before, I don't know why people are listening to BBC Radio 2. Why are they listening to Radio 2? If you want opinion debate even, Charlie here. I mean, weekly. We do it all. Alarm clock Brits. If you want music, go to Chris Evans on Virgin. It's simple. Daily Telegraph. No, yes, it is. Page 4. I want to talk about this. Labour MP loses whip for McSwindle phone joke. The legend that is Carl Turner, who, as you know, is on this show regularly and on this station regularly, has been very critical about the Labour Party. He was critical about Lammy's I'm getting rid of juries, another terrible idea. He was also very critical about the Morgan McSweeney phone saga. He doesn't believe it to be true. Yesterday, he had the whip removed. And to understand, ladies and gentlemen, how appalling the Labour Party government is, alongside the BBC, a really lovely man who used to produce my drive time show, Ryan Longlegs. He basically, when this news broke, do you know this? He rang to bid Carl to say, will you come on the show? And he had no idea he'd lost the whip. So we actually, at Talk, managed to tell him that he'd been sacked from the Labour Party. He will be on this show after 9. Thoughts on Carl Turner?
Well, look, he has been outspoken in the past and has obviously been a thorn in the side of the Labour government. They say that he's had the whip withdrawn because it's not just on one particular incident, so speaking out about Morgan McSweeney, but a succession of disloyalties, acts of disloyalty. But, it's just too coincidental, isn't it? A Labour MP finally...
I mean, he spoke sense. Common sense, yeah.
Saying what we're all thinking and what lots of people are feeling, and you have your membership and your parliamentary career sort of suspended from the Labour Party. So he's now he'll have to sit as an independent MP until such a time that the Labour Party might say, OK, we need your votes because we might be on the ropes again and we'll give you the whip back.
Do you know what I want to say about Carl Turner? And I mean this. I like Carl Turner. What I like about Carl Turner is he'll come on, he'll argue the things that he believes in. He's very honest and open. If this government has done something that he doesn't like, I think he's a fantastic constituents MP. And what we get a lot of on this station is, I don't agree with his politics, but I like the man. Carl Turner is what I call a proper MP, not just a sheep. And I suspect he would be re-elected in a heartbeat because I suspect his constituents, along with our listeners, who might, as I say, not agree with everything he's saying, respect the fact the man's got an opinion. And it doesn't scare me. It says an awful lot about this government because he said, I like Keir, I've tried, but he won't listen to me. Respect to Carl.
Totally, but this goes to the heart of what this government seems to be doing. So if you dare, it seems to put your head above the parapet and say, actually, I don't agree with a particular policy, which in one of the issues is about jury trials. So you're right. And he said that Lammy's plans were unworkable, inconceived and not supported by any evidence, saying that it was fundamentally dishonest to suggest that juries were the reason for the
And
court
his wife's a
backlog.
magistrate, he should know.
Exactly, he should know. Now, instead of any government, you would have thought, any prime minister that's got, the wind, behind them, and
the wind in his sails.
The wind in his sails.
He's got wind, but it's not in his sails. That's for sure.
That's full of confidence, that feels it can win the arguments. He'll say, okay, well, I respect Carl's decision, but actually, I disagree with it because of X, Y, Z.
Debate.
And you just move on. But what have they done? They've taken the whip away from someone that has a genuine view and a genuine concern that many others will have and will share. They tried to cancel elections on the back of not trying to give local people their say in democracy because they're running scared. This is a government that really just doesn't understand the idea of politics. It doesn't get politics. It's about debate. It's about winning arguments. It's about presenting a case to the public.
Do you know what's the
trying
irony?
to win them over.
Do you know the irony of the Carl Turner thing? That this is the irony and how short-sighted Labour are. He would do more for Labour by being out there and trying to explain their theory whilst acknowledging they haven't got everything right. I would listen to Carl Turner far more than I'd listen to anybody. Total respect to him. Listen, we'll have him on after 9. If you want to ask Carl a question, you want to come on. That's a strange angle. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87333. Can I speak? Good morning, Shane. How are you?
Morning, Jazz. Shane in Bournemouth. I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again today. The BBC needs to be axed. There's no point in people paying for a licence when, most of Britain doesn't watch TV anymore. There's never anything on. There certainly isn't anything on BBC. EastEnders is a joke of just woke rubbish. So what's the point in it? BBC Radio, like Radio 1, load of rubbish. Radio 2, well, I can't stand that Jeremy Vine, so I'd never listen to it. BBC Radio 3, I've never listened to it. Radio 4, I've never listened to that. So, but there's just no point in it. I think it just needs to be axed, taken off air completely. Anyway, have a good morning, mate. Hopefully the sun shines. Cheers, Jazz.
Sorry, could I just point out, I mean, I love alarm clock Brits, but it's getting to the point where I'm going to end up in therapy. I mean, I do agree with, but in fact, the last two calls, pretty damn sort of miserable view of the United Kingdom, but you have to buy it. I'm going to keep saying this is my new catchword. Why are you listening? Nobody's listening. Radio 2. They had 8... Do you know, Mark Wogan's a really close friend of mine, right? Terry Wogan, a god, a radio god, OK, had 10 million listeners. They've halved that anyway. Imagine what he thinks. 30 years, didn't he do?
Yeah, probably more.
What did Scott Mills do? I'm going to say it all morning, right? If you want news and you want to give a view on the news and politics and everything that's happening, you listen to Talk. If you want breakfast, you go to Big Alan Brazil on TalkSport. And if you want music, by the way, and I don't say this about many people because he's a friend, but he's also an absolute legend, just listen to Chris Evans on Virgin. I don't know what your problem is, honestly, Radio 2 joke. Jeremy, tell Carl we love him. The only Labour MP who is honest. Linda, absolutely. Adi, no surprises that Carl Turner's been suspended, Jez, after his comments about Morgan McSwindle's phone theft. Good on him, though, for not holding back, and wish we had more MPs like him. Great show. Thank you very much indeed. Morning to Rachel. Stand by for Rachel if you come across Rachel today. Rachel's not happy. She went, tell me you're joking about the shortage of antidepressants and HRT. I need my Prozac, I need my HRT and a gallon of coffee to even talk to anybody when I get at work.
Well, yes, steer clear.
Yes, morning JK and the lovely Charlie. If the BBC lose the court case with Trump, will they put licences up, says Bill in Romsey. Let's move on to Trump. Page 1 of the Daily Mail. I have to say about, straight here, it's all a bit unravelling for Trump in Iran, and much as this is like a fishbone that's going to stick in my neck, Keir Starmer got it right, didn't he?
No, I don't think he did.
Not about saying no to the bases, but maybe he got it right about not getting further involved in this war, which is beginning to look like a massive mistake. And listen, far be it from me to want to compliment Starmer, but I think credit where credit's due.
Well, that's the position of the government. I mean, look, and he's always said he wasn't going to get involved, but he could have reacted a bit sooner.
Absolutely.
For example, to send HMS Dragon to,
HMS
Cyprus
Dragon your feet.
Exactly. He could have given permission earlier to allow the US to use our air bases, which might have had a different sort of take on the conflict. But you're absolutely right. There is now a feel where Donald Trump is. We know he's a disruptor. We know he sort of does this kind of, throwing out one argument one day, chopping and changing the next to try and unfoot us all and, destabilise whatever it is, whether it's an argument, whether it's, in this case, the Ayatollah. But it's not working. It's not cutting through. The public want to see, actually, if you're in, the heat of conflict and battle, you want your leaders to be consistent. You want them to be strong.
There is no consistency.
But there isn't consistency here. We're now hearing, about as he says, the US troops could be out within weeks. Well, but
Grumpy Trumpy, who was going to sort out the Straits of Hormuz. Trump's taunt exposes a PM without a plan. Basically, he said, you know what, you can get your own damn oil. Which actually is quite interesting as a criticism of Keir Starmer, for the very reason that you just said, Charlie, because he flip-flops and nobody knows. The latest thing, he's been branded weak this morning because that official visit, King Charles and Queen Camilla are going on an official US state visit to woo Trump, despite the fact that Trump and Starmer have fallen out so spectacularly. That shows the weakness of the man. If I was that angry with America, I'd say to my king, you're not going. I don't know, that basis thing, you're so right. It's
Yeah.
What was that noise? Sorry, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
There's no consistency. It's about as consistent as a chocolate teapot.
Yeah, and look, the royals, they don't get involved in politics.
No, but he's being used.
But he's now being...
Of course
yes,
he is.
Absolutely, but it's you would hope it's to continue the strength of the two countries, even if it's not the two leaders of the countries at this particular time. But we've got to ask ourselves why, what could we benefit from that visit? You can't just...
well, the Mail asks the question, can the king heal the rift with Trump, pages 6 and 7? I mean, Trump is... Look, can the king heal the rift? UK sending more... But the truth of the matter is, he's a royalist and his mum was born in Scotland and he loves all the pageantry, doesn't he?
Yeah, and whether you are the most key leading critic of Donald Trump, OK, that's one thing. But the UK needs America.
Yeah.
Regardless of who's running the show, the UK needs America. It always will, because it's a superpower, and we should be an ally. So maybe this could be, a time where you're right. The king could surprise us all, and he could, persuade. He could be the one to persuade Donald Trump. You never know.
I think you're right when you say about Starmer. When it first happened, you go, listen, Donald, I'm being honest. I'm not sending troops, but you can use our bases in a heartbeat. We'll do whatever we can to support you, but I'm not putting anybody in the ground. I'm not putting the airs there. And you sort of think that Trump would respect that far more than, no, you're not doing it, I've got to... Do you remember what he said? He says he's got to speak to his team. Make a decision. Now, this is not an April Fool. Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie haven't been seen much in public. She's only gone and left a voice note. Morning, Eugenie.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's Eugenie from Bexhill-on-Sea. Scott Mills wasn't found not guilty. The Crown Prosecution Service didn't go ahead with the case through lack of evidence. So that doesn't say that he wasn't not guilty or guilty. It's just lack of evidence. So that could have been all sorts of reasons. So no one said he's not guilty. Anyway, great show, Jeremy.
How's your mum? The point is, the point I would take from that is you are innocent until proven guilty in this country, aren't you? You have to be.
You're absolutely, of course, you have to be, because that's the way that we do our judicial process, and that's that is the right approach. But there is this grey area in between, because look, if you are charged, then clearly, as that caller was just saying, then there's clearly enough evidence. The police are taking you to task. You're going to go through the court process. The CPS are going to look at it. So clearly there is enough evidence against you, which it gives an employer the right to say, right, well, that's obviously an issue. I don't want you on my books, or you're being suspended, or you're being sacked because of a charge that's been brought against you. There's clearly a lot of evidence there. Whether you then proven guilty or not, it gives the employer the ability to sack you or suspend you. If you're not charged, then of course you can sort of say, OK, you've got allegations here. I'd want to defend you because it is innocent until proven guilty, and you want to stand by your employee, and that's the right thing to do. And you could say, well done to the employee, because we have all these malicious people that just say, oh, you know, he did that, she did that, whatever. And people can bring about these false accusations. But it is that grey area in between where an employee has to make a decision. OK, we've got now new evidence. He's not been charged, or she's not been charged. But it looks bad. What do we do as a company or BBC or as a state broadcaster to say, right, yeah, this is going to be reputational damage for us if we don't act soon.
But we're going to get screwed anyway if we do act, because they're going to say they must have known the story was going to come out that they knew a year ago. Here's a question for you. It's April Fool's, but it's a genuine question. What have the BBC and Keir Starmer got in common? It's not a joke. There's a word. Inconsistency.
Well,
it's true, isn't it? None of them seem to be able to do anything. This is good. Joanna from Salisbury. Carl Turner, the one person, as he put it, couldn't be marched up to the top of the hill one day and you turn the next. Lots of support for Carl Turner, who, if you know, is a regular to this show and this station, is a very audible critic of the Labour government. Last night, shockingly, suspended, whip removed, thrown out the Labour Party for daring to criticise Starmer. Good morning to Brian Goodwin. Jez, why give France millions for doing Jack? Sarah from Reform was right when she said no fish. We hold all the cards of this negotiation, but why don't we play them? This is the story, just very quickly. As talks break down between the UK and France over that new small boats deal, it's revealed last night the Shabana Mahmoud has agreed to hand France £2 million a week. That's £100 million a year for doing a job, which they don't do. On the same day, Labour MP Emily Thornberry sparks fury with calls to give thousands of migrants permanent residency so they can claim benefits. Geez, honestly, what in the... Seriously, Emily Thornberry? Listen to me. And I know Emily Thornberry. Why do these Labour politicians have a blind spot? And Green, we'll throw them in the same bag here. You are not going to be able to sell to the British public the alarm clock Brits who are really struggling, Emily Thornberry. Listen to me, I'm being honest. Go to the super. They can't afford the food that they used to have, the petrol. This isn't about the Iraq war. It's about your party's economic policies. And to then come out and say, I think every single migrant should get permanent residency. Try telling that to the homeless Brits. Does my head in that sort? That's madness.
Oh, totally. And look, you know... even if you want to put all the politics aside, it's about getting results here.
Yeah.
And so we've been paying France all of those millions of pounds, and they've only stopped, I would argue, not even a third of those.
Well, that was the figure, but I agree with you.
Exactly. That's the official figure, but I'm sure it's less than that. On what planet would you then say, right, we're going to continue a deal, we're going to pay you that $2 million a week? The answer is no. It doesn't matter what your politics are.
No, absolutely.
There is a deal in place, and the deal is for France to stop those boats, to intercept them, leaving Calais before they reach the shore of the UK.
Why not offer them a boat? Why not offer them money per boat and make it a factual sort of work an hour, get paid an hour?
And I think you're right. No one has a problem with doing a deal with France. We want the problem to be solved. We don't want those boats
being offered a show fee and not turning up.
Yeah, well, you know, that
oh, there's a shock. 17 minutes to 7. Morning, Liam.
Morning, Jess. Liam in Yorkshire. Yet again, another BBC cover-up by the sounds, but what gets to me even more, mate, is it's another crime against a kid, allegedly. People men in positions of power who think they have the right to do this kind of thing. I mean, I've got 3 daughters at home, mate, and God help anybody that ever did anything to any one of them. But where's the care for these kids? It baffles me, mate, because I feel like I'm from a different world from everything I hear on radio. But yeah, disgusting, mate. Have a good show.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's all going on here this morning. Welcome back. 7:15, you would Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock Brit. We want your views on the news. You're waking up to more about the BBC. They knew about Scott Mills. They didn't know about Scott. Nobody knows what the BBC is doing. I do know that they sent 46 million households licence fee letters saying if you don't pay, we're going to prosecute you. What you make of them? Starmer branded weak this morning. He's sending old Charlie Boy on an official visit, despite the fact that Grumpy Trump, is gone. Get your own oil, you selfish UK Egypts. Talks are broken down between the UK and France. That's brilliant. No, I am not giving you 500 million. I'll just give you 100 million for doing absolutely jack. The news yesterday, the breaking news that Carl Turner, a regular on this show and this station, has been suspended. The whip taken by Labour. Everybody wants to talk to him. He's on our show after 9 o'clock this morning. Charlie, I want to talk to you about this story. This frightens the what's-its off so many people. It's in the Telegraph, page 7. If you're a hospital, if you've got a hospital or doctor's appointment today, I mean, this is frightening, then you should know that the UK, according to NHS England's Sir Jane Mackey, days away from running out of common drugs. £600 hit most families. We're talking about aspirin, codeine, antidepressants and HRT medication, plus syringes and gloves. We could run out within days. What is wrong? And I'm sorry, I know the war in Iraq will now be blamed for everything by this Labour government. Actually, their incompetence should be called out. So petrol's going through the roof. Nobody can afford their food. We've got the highest interest and tax rates ever in the history of the world. We're spending 10 billion a month on paying interest on debts we can't service. Our borders are open and Emily Thornberry wants to give a house to anybody who comes here, and you can't even get medicine now. This is just going to send people into a panic, isn't it?
It is, and wrongly so, because it's almost as if we haven't had a global health crisis pandemic.
Where we did, didn't we?
Where we should have learned lessons for how to get supplies into the country.
Stockpile, maybe.
Exactly. You know, so I'm sorry to say to the NHS and its leadership that this is not helpful, and it's not true. There will be contingencies in place, I'm afraid. And I don't want to sound like
So is this just a plea by the NHS to get more money?
I have absolutely
Would
no
you like
idea.
a coffee? Just brought in there.
Oh, very kind. Thank you very much. Oh,
chai
wonderful.
latte with oat milk.
Oh,
he's so changed, honest to God. Man.
Gone all woke.
I made her and she's gone completely outrageous.
But I think this is unnecessarily alarming until, look, someone will call up and say, actually, the medicines have run out, Charlie, you got this totally wrong. I put too much faith in the system. Maybe
there's two ways of looking at it. Is it scaremongering by the NHS who wants more money? And if it is true, what an absolute what's-it show of a cut. Yep. I mean, I'm beginning to agree with all those people who go, because literally nothing works and nothing is available and everything's wrong.
Yeah, and this is the point. Look, we've talked about the BBC and its spending, and I just think the BBC needs a complete overhaul. It needs to cut out all of it.
It needs to be defunded. That's what I do.
A lot of its management.
Would you not defund the BBC? Streaming.
I would still give it a complete overhaul. And the reason why I'm just slightly holding back on... the BBC absolutely needs to change for all of the reasons that we've talked about. But there is still, I think, the idea of local news, the regional radio stations, those kinds of things still need to be funded. I think if the BBC goes back to its basic way, where subscription services... because it's commercial.
No, I'd allow advertising on the BBC. Play the game as the rest of us, and we'll see if you're any good at your programming, local or national.
But also the BBC Bite Size, which again needs to be looked at. But these are educational programmes that are free for young. You wouldn't get that, I don't think.
If I never saw Balamory again, I'd be happy. I've been watching kids BBC BBs or whatever it's called for 39 years. Honestly.
But all of that needs reform, and I think in terms of its as an institution. And the same with the NHS. We can't just keep saying, we need more money, we need to be spending, or we're going to run out of drugs here. There's clearly someone needs to be in whoever's in the procurement team, whoever's in the supply chain sort of department, needs to have said, right, okay, Iran crisis or supply chain issue, what do we now need to do? Right.
Forward thinking, imagine.
Don't ship it from, if it can't come through the seas, get it through the air. Whatever the chain and supply chain is, somebody needs to be looking at this. But again, if there is going to be a shortage, it's the system that's been caught sleeping at the wheel.
Very good. Did you ever watch kids' television? Do you know what Rainbow was?
No.
There was Charlie, George and Bungle and Zippy.
Yes, I do.
Do you remember that? Well, we've only got Charlie and George. Good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Charlie. It's Charlie and George on our way of work again, helping to pay off that 40 billion. I think the BBC should hang their head in shame this morning with all the scandals in the past with Savile, Rolf Harris. Let's not forget there's been some old DJs as well that was at it. Then you get Bob Villan at the Glastonbury Festival. Then they, like him or loathe him, what they done to Donald Trump. I think it's time everybody stop watching television.
Apart from this, obviously, but this is streaming. Couldn't agree with him more. Do you not remember Rainbow? Come on, Georgie, Jippy, Bungle. That wasn't a very good impression, was it? I sounded like I've actually had a bit of a disaster this one. Roderick Thorpe, he sounds like our sort of guy, old Rodders. Giving migrants permanent residence would allow them to vote. What these idiots in government don't seem to grasp is that once there are enough of these people in the area, they will put up their own candidates with maybe another new party. No, Roderick, I think you're completely wrong. I think Emily Thornberry and her ilk know exactly that that's potentially a way of getting votes in a future election. I think everybody else needs to wake up to the reality. And the reality is, if you are as unpopular as the Labour government is, ship some people in, offer them the earth to the detriment of your own people, and they might vote for you. It's like the Green Party. That's what they're doing. This is they're after the Muslim vote. Maybe the Labour Party have gone, well, we've lost the Muslim vote to the Greens. Now we're going to just try and, you know, bring people in. It's absolutely outrageous. David Thomas, morning, Jez. Paying the French, stop paying the French and use the money to fund our own defences against these boats. 500 million could do a lot. Plus, linking the fishing licences to any that launch from France. That would be more effective. Gary, Isle of Skye. Have you been there?
No.
Amazing. If we agree a deal with France to stop the boats, we should then deduct a certain amount of money from the deal for every boat that slips through the net. I see what you did there. And lands on the UK shores or gets picked up mid-channel, right? Isn't it? And also Anthony says, good morning, Jezza. Every story you've been talking to Chaz about this morning would make a good April Fool's joke. What a completely crap world we live in right now. Chaz.
Well, there you are. Yeah, I mean, it would be fun if it wasn't so serious. You're absolutely right. But we're living in a two-tier Britain. If that's what it feels like, you know. And as you say, people can come into the country illegally. You know, when we're paying France who don't do their job, where people that do come into the country, they can spend years before they get their asylum claim process. If they're claiming asylum, it can be years for them to then appeal. All the while, you know, being able to have their health benefits all paid for on the back of the UK taxpayer, and you know, they could be paid up to 40 grand. Just to leave, you know.
Migrant monopoly. Please just leave Dover, pass go. You get 40 grand, and then you can come back. Have you noticed in the Mail the April Fool's joke today?
I did. I saw
Tell me about it.
It's Mount Rushmore. Is that right?
Yeah.
Have you,
it's utterly brilliant. If you
Mount
are,
Rushmore.
The papers do this. Page 13 of the Mail. It's on screen right now. It says, secured by ropes, a team of intrepid sculptors chisel away at a very famous quiff as the shock first addition to Mount Rushmore in 85 years is revealed by the Daily Mail. So they're just going to add, basically, they're going to put a quiff, like a wig, on top of Mount Rushmore. And people think... the journalist is called Olaf Priol. That obviously... Is that a proper journalist? I don't think so. Anyway, there we go. That's interesting. There will be April... How long does April Fool's last? Is it just till lunchtime?
I think you're right, actually, yes. I think you're right. I thought it might have gone on all day, but I think the fool's on you if it goes beyond 12 o'clock. I think you're right earlier.
Is that right?
I think so.
We're sitting here in trepidation, aren't we, to be honest? So what are you doing for April Fool's Day? Are you going out? Are you going to bed? What are you doing?
No, I have a very boring day. So
I've got to go to work.
Talking about... but I've got people coming in to look at my kitchen.
Have you?
If you really want to know.
What's wrong with it? Infested again, is it?
It's not.
Is that Rent-A-Kill have come round, is it?
No. I'm having a new kitchen.
You having it ripped out?
I am.
Good luck with that. What?
Can we stick to the kitchen?
He's been very, very hard working. He's been all around the world. We appreciate him very much. We're actually working... Bank Holiday Monday. We're going to eat chocolate on Friday. We sound like a couple. We're spending Friday not here and eating lots of chocolate, but we're back on Monday, won't we?
We will.
Fantastic. Listen, thank you very much to you, Charlie Roddy. Listen, Alarm Clock, so much you're waking up to. What do you make of the BBC? They knew about Scott Mills, they didn't. They're not going to sack him, they are going to sack him. This is an organisation that spent time sending 46 million licence fee holders warning letters saying if you don't pay, we're going to send you to jail. You're waking up to the news that Starmer been branded weak. because he's sending Charlie Boy on an official visit to baby get to Grumpy Trumpy to back down just a little bit. And don't forget, if you're going to the hospital or a doctor's appointment today, you should know that the NHS's England's Sir Jim Mackay, I keep thinking of porridge, says he's really worried about surprise. Within days, we could run out of aspirin, codeine, antidepressants and HRT. Oh, well done. Olaf Priol is an anagram of April Fool. Oh, my God. No, it is. Did you know that? There you are, page 13 of the Mail. Olaf Priol, well done, Richard, is an anagram of April Fool. It's all going on. And also, we're still paying the French. But most of all, I should tell you that after 9 o'clock this morning, the legend that is Carl Turner, the man, the only Labour MP that we had on this station that actually had the guts to stand up, has been suspended by the Labour Party. And he hasn't spoken to anybody, but he's on this show after 9 o'clock this morning. 03444 499 1000 is my telephone number. You can, of course, text us 87222 after the break. And news, Brendan O'Neill. And last word to Charlie. Last word to Charlie.
Well, you're right. The state of the country is in despair. Some people, you know, all the issues that we talked about today.
Oh, go home, get some breakfast. You need to sleep. I'm sorry, I didn't give you very good in there. We love working with him. Thank you very much indeed, Charlie. Really back on Bank Holiday Monday 03. Well, the state of the country's in a terrible mess. Incisive political commentary from a man at the coalface of public opinion. 03444 499 1000. The news at 7 is next.
Labour seem to have an almost obsession about what they call the vulnerable. But the problem is the vulnerable to a lot of people are some people who are actually just not wanting to work. You know, there are so many people now who are not even trying to get a job. Yes, of course, there is a slightly higher unemployment, but, you know, there is absolutely no reason why anyone can't actually get a job. And I think people are fed up with it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Fancy returning to the front line as Foreign Secretary?
I am going to return. I am going to return. To the people from whence I came.
Hello, I'm Peter Mandelson, and I'm proud to serve as His Majesty's British Ambassador to the United States of America.
I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Mandy's out 4 decades and 3 scandals, or 3 that we know about. Guess what? Number 10 knew all about it. They knew that he lived in Jeffrey Epstein's flat.
Mandelson resigned from the Labour Party late last night over the allegation of a $75,000 set of payments to him from Epstein while he was business secretary, $10,000 to his now husband, a photo of him in his pants. This isn't just bad form. There are strong arguments here for him to be facing investigation over misconduct in public office.
I knew of his association with Epstein, but had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
Breaking news that Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt. This is the establishment, the British establishment on trial. Came to us around about 5 o'clock when we learned that we saw footage of Peter Mandelson being led out of his London home in very exclusive Regent's Park by 3 coppers.
Now we have all these allegations, we have all the documentation related to those allegations, which Downing Street is being forced to put out. The first tranche of it will be early next month.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, or welcome along. This is Talk Breakfast on the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, JK till 10. Thanks for tuning in, whatever you're doing today. Are you on your Easter holidays already? Some of the kids are. You're an alarm clock, Brit, if you've got kids, because you've got to get up anyway. If you're on your way to work or back from the night shift, you're very welcome. What are you waking up to? On Wednesday, the 1st of April. I know, don't go there. Page 13 of the Mail. Very good. So it turns out BBC bosses knew about Scott Mills. They knew that he was under investigation some time ago. Alleged sexual offences against a boy under 16. Police found no reason to prosecute. 8 years later, the BBC have got rid of him in a heartbeat. Does that mean that they're just watching their own back? Is there a reason to think this is unfair, or is there new information to come to light? I know only from my own experience they'll drip it all week. There'll be a big Sunday exposure. Many people now agreeing with the premise that we set yesterday, that maybe this was involved with the Hugh Edwards story that went on Channel 5. Well worth a watch, by the way. Fantastic. Maybe that tipped somebody over the edge. I don't know. But it just points the finger at the BBC. You know, the BBC who last year bombarded 46 million of us with letters saying, if you don't pay your licence fee, we're going to put you in jail. This is the same organisation that's own house is totally in disorder. How many... I don't mean to be wrong, but the stories out of the BBC, I know every company has, you know, rotten eggs, rotten apples, whatever you're supposed to say, but this lot are extraordinary. You're waking up to news that Starmer's been branded weak. He's sending Charlie on a royal visit to America, despite the fact he's not talking to Trump. And Grumpy Trump is gone, get your own oil. He's actually going, get your own oil. I'm not doing it. That's a terrible impression. Also, we'll talk this hour about how hospitals are allegedly running out of supplies, which could frighten lots of people, and more about the UK and France's the negotiations on us giving them 500 million quid to not stop any migrants. That's not gone very well, because yesterday Shabana Mahmood said, I'm going to set some targets, and they weren't, no. But she still gives them 2 million quid a week. Imagine not having an agreement with somebody and you get 2 million quid a week. That'd be like... No, never mind. Also, Emily Thornberry, I'm calling her out. This is absolutely outrageous. She sparked fury yesterday with calls to give thousands of migrants permanent residency so they can claim benefits. No, let's be honest, Em. It's so they can vote for you, because right now nobody wants to. We'll also talk after 9 o'clock. Carl Turner, arch critic of his own government, was suspended yesterday unceremoniously. Carl Turner, such respect from the people that listen to this show. They might disagree with what he says, but they've all respected the fact that this guy is prepared as an MP to stand up and say what he feels. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Jezza. It's Andy from Hull. Just a little observation about the BBC for you. I've not listened to it for 4 or 5 years, probably, since lockdown, roughly around that time. And I've just noticed a difference in how I think about things. And if anybody doesn't believe me, go have some time away from it. If you're a regular BBC fanatic, take some time out of listening to it or watching what they tell you, and then just go back and listen. And it'll sound a bit weird, a bit sinister. It's just the narratives they push, the agendas they seem to have, and the general way they go about things. It's just, you don't need it in your life. Your life will be better without the BBC. You do not need it, trust me.
Well, there's the catchphrase for Alarm Clock Brits. I'm going to say what I've been saying all morning. I don't mean to be rude, but if you want the news and you want politics and you want to have your view included, you'd listen to Talk Breakfast, wouldn't you? Or Talk as a station. If you want music, you listen to Chris Evans on Virgin. If you want sport, you listen to Alan Brazil. That we're all in a line here, right? We're all in just. What is this BBC Radio 2 trash anyway? Morning, Jez. This is a bit of a dig from George in Leicester. He says, if you really, Jez, this Alarm Clock Brit thing you keep calling out. If you want to be part of the real Alarm Clock Brit, could you please start at 5? What really? Are we going to start at 5? 5 till 9, the Brighton line. But what would happen to Petrie's repeat? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We'll say a very good morning to a man who I know will have an opinion. The chief political writer of Spiked, the legend that is Brendan O'Neill. Good morning.
Hi, Jeremy. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Where do we start, apart from saying Britain's completely screwed, isn't it? The BBC and Scott Mills, and the reason this is such a big story, Brendan, is not necessarily the man himself. Look, historically, there have been accusations. He was investigated. Nothing happened. I think there must be more. I think there's a Sunday scoop coming. It's just the way I read it, because the way it's being dripped by the Mirror. That would be my opinion. That would be why I think they've acted as they have done. But it does raise a whole question, well, many questions about the BBC yet again. There seem to be people with sordid problems inside their organisation. They have no consistency in the way they deal with them. And yet, Brendan, on the same day we discovered they sent 46 million houses a letter saying, if you don't pay your licence fee, we're going to prosecute you.
I mean, what a weird institution the BBC is when you think about it. This is an institution that is supposed to serve the public, but actually looks down its nose at the public. And at the same time, it rinses us for the licence fee. And if we don't pay it, we could be criminalised. I mean, it's a very odd setup. And I think most people agree it's outdated. It's very archaic. The Scott Mills story, it tells us so much about the BBC at the moment. Firstly, that they sometimes know that these things have gone on. But also, I do think there is a danger, Jeremy, that the BBC is now overcompensating for its catastrophic failures during the Savile scandal by reacting very quickly to events like this. I actually think you're right when you say that you think something else is going to come out, and it could well be in the Sunday papers. I think that's a very good call. So we'll wait and see. But
nobody ever launches. This happened at the weekend. What do I know? Quite a bit about that. Nobody launches a story on Monday. You launch a story on a Sunday. That's what you do, and then you follow up. To me, this is drip, drip, drip. I don't know if that's true, but if there isn't anything extra, then the BBC, yet again, could be accused of reacting too little, too late. I mean, bear in mind, I don't know if you know this, we found this out as well. This was the last thing that he's leaving tomorrow actually, but this is one of the last big things that he's done before he's done. So is it the new regime saying, we want this sorted out? How much more, though? Is he a sacrificial lamb? This is in no way condoning what he's alleged to do, but I made the point earlier, which I put to you. If you're in the public eye and somebody makes an accusation against you, which can be turning out to be untrue, let's say, you're screwed. Is that fair? Not really.
No, that's not fair. And, if nothing else does come out, although I'm on your side on that, I think it will. Yeah. If nothing else does, this is a problem for the BBC because I think they've overreacted. Now, that's not to say that the accusations aren't serious. They're very serious. We're talking about someone who was under the age of 16, allegedly. The police investigated it. The CPS thought there wasn't sufficient evidence to pursue it. It's a historic allegation, and suddenly he loses his job for it. We do have to ask, even in difficult cases like this, what's happened to the presumption of innocence? Are people going to be presumed innocent until all proven guilty, or are they not? And is it the BBC's call to make that kind of judgment? So there are so many questions swirling around this. Did the BBC know more than we do? Has it overreacted? It seems either way, the BBC has screwed up yet again.
I think that's right. And then, 46 million people being sent letters saying if you don't pay... And listen, I'll make this argument for as long as I sit here. I'm not against the BBC. Well, I'm against being forced to pay for something that A, I don't watch, and B, I don't respect journalistically. I don't care. Do you know if the BBC came out and said to me... we're slightly left-leaning. We don't think Hamas is a terrorist organisation. We think a woman can have a penis, and frankly, we don't want to upset anybody, but we're not actually going to be incisive about common sense and thing that matters. I go, right, that's their bag. I don't want to watch that. But I'm forced to pay to not watch something because those are the rules. I believe in a level playing field. I believe that you have to, whatever your political persuasion, you have to defund the BBC very soon or put it on a different footing, because it's not about fairness, because people will throw at you, Brett, and they'll go, well, I mean, what about Strictly and what about Traitors? Brilliant. Well, I'll pay for that, but I'm not paying for the dross that I'm not interested in.
I couldn't agree more. Imagine there was a magazine out there which was, so rabidly anti-Israel, and which also thought that a man could be a lesbian, and which was obsessed morning, noon and night with drag queens. You wouldn't buy that magazine. I wouldn't buy that magazine. Most of your listeners wouldn't buy it. And yet all of those views are on the BBC, and we are compelled by law to fund it. It's an ancient, creaking system. I'm old enough to remember when there were 4 channels on TV.
Yeah.
In fact, I can remember when there were only 3 channels on TV. That's how long ago I go.
I remember I remember before there were actually TVs, Brendan, to be honest.
Well, exactly. This is a long time ago. Things have changed enormously. I now pay, I think, 60 quid a month for various streaming services, and I'm very happy to, because I watch them all and they produce good content. So why am I still paying for the BBC, which I watch less and less and less? The BBC needs to become a streaming service like the rest of them. It should compete in the open market, and if people want to pay for it, they should pay for it. And a lot of people would. So I think that's really the future for the BBC.
Completely agree. I want to talk to you about how, this is cynicism at its worst, but talks breaking down yesterday between the UK and France over this deal. We give them 500 million quid a year. Well, Shabana Mahmood stood firm. You'll be delighted to know that she's only giving them 2 million a week to police the channel, despite the fact they won't accept a target and they didn't do anything. But on the back of that, I'd love your comment. Dame Emily Thornberry, the woman who insulted the white van man, sparking fury yesterday when she said, thousands of migrants should come to this country and be given permanent residency, and they should be allowed to claim benefits. Completely tone deaf to what people, hard-working Brits across Britain and Ireland and everywhere, are saying. And I would suspect that Dame Emily Thornberry has one intention with that suggestion, and that is to get people through the door who are so grateful for what you've given them, they'll vote for Labour. Because let's face it, right now it doesn't seem many more people will do in this country.
Yeah, it's a voter creation scheme. There's no question about it. And it's so interesting, isn't it, that we're constantly told that migrants contribute enormously to the economy and to the culture, and they're a great boon for the nation. And then we're also told that a lot of them are living in poverty. They don't have enough money. We need to give them some of our money. Which one is it? Are they enriching us economically, or are they taking from us economically? I think it's the latter, actually. But it's interesting that a politician unwittingly has exposed that truth, and that's what Emily Thornberry has exposed. But isn't it striking that politicians like her always seem to care more for people who come from overseas than they do for ordinary native Brits?
I don't understand that. I remember when the Bell Hotel in Epping, when all that, the furore about the migrant hotel next door, and 2 girls, I think, have been sexually attacked, and the local council listened to the local people, and they banned that hotel. They went to court and they won the case. Our own government challenged that, thought it was unfair, and basically said, which I find astonishing, they basically said, you know what, the views and the feelings, the views and the concern is with migrants, not your indigenous population. What does that say?
Yeah, they said, shut up and put up. We care more for these young men who arrived on boats last week than we do for you who have been living in this country, your families, for hundreds of years and contributing enormously. That's what they said. We care more for these foreign men than we do for ordinary Brits. And we've known that for some time. And that's what Emily Thornberry is expressing as well. This is a politician who looks down her nose at Brits who fly the England flag outside their house.
But he's happy to garner all that comes with being a dame. This is what I don't get about people like her and Starmer and all these ennobled Labour politicians who hate the system, who hate this country, are not patriotic at all. She should give away her damehood. And I would say this to Emily Thornberry as well, to her face, she wouldn't like it. You go and live in Epping. You go and live, seriously, you go and live. What's that other village where all the furore is happening with where Samara went? Where? Crowborough. You go and live in Crowborough, Emily Thornberry, and then you tell me you've got the same view, because you wouldn't have the same view. While we're on Labour, buddy, shout out for Carl Turner, a man who's brave enough to come on the show repeatedly and have a say. Found out yesterday, actually, from us that he has the whip suspended. He's the man who said, I don't believe that the banning jury trials is sense. I think it's madness. He called Morgan McSweeney Morgan McSwindle and said he thinks he's lied and it's convenient. A voice of sense in the Labour Party and a politician who was prepared to have an opinion. Gone.
Yeah, I mean, sums up Keir Starmer's Labour Party, doesn't it? So Carl Turner is one of the few Labour MPs who was able to connect with ordinary people. Yeah, I think that's why he was successful on Talk when he appeared on it. He shoots from the hip. He says it as it is. He's an honest speaker. He was critical of the Starmer government, but only in a very normal, polite way.
A constructive way, to be fair with you, Bren.
Yeah, absolutely. And now he's been booted out. And why is he being booted out? Because he thinks it's important to have trial by jury. I mean, you really couldn't make this up. But he kind of reminds me of what Labour politicians used to be like. If you go back to the days of Peter Shaw and people from the past who they believed in something. They could connect with the man in the street. They knew how to speak to people. We don't have any Labour MPs like that anymore. We have all these stiff idiots who went up through the trade unions or the charity sector or the European Union or some think tank. They've never rubbed shoulders with a working class person. And now they're booting out one of the few MPs who actually has. It's ridiculous.
I completely agree. And the thing about loads of messages this morning from people saying, don't have to agree with his views, but respect the fact that he's got an opinion. Booted out. Oh, there he is. Head in hand, Starmer. Anyway, we've got Carl Turner after 9, ladies and gentlemen. That's an exclusive this morning on the show. What about this? I'd love your take on this, because people panic and I understand it. If you've got a hospital or doctor's appointment today, NHS England's Sir Jim Mackay says he's worried that supplies will go, there were days running out of everything. It's all down to the Iraq war. It's all Donald Trump's fault. We're going to run out of aspirin, codeine, antidepressants and HRT medications, including syringes and gloves. Charlie Rowley said, hold on a minute, we went through COVID pandemic. Surely there are plans. Is this not just a chance for the NHS to try and claim more money? I don't know.
I'm sick and tired of people blaming everything on the Iran war. I mean, this war's only been going on for a month. If it has destroyed Britain's capacity so swiftly, then we were in trouble to begin with. And I do think this is just pointing the finger at Trump for a problem that is obviously of the NHS's own making. Where are your stocks? Why don't you have things in supply in case of emergencies?
Let's look at your procurement plans, right? Let's get it right.
Yeah. But it's the same with the fuel energy crisis. Everyone's saying, oh, it's down to the Iran war. No, it isn't. It's down to the fact that we've had suicidal net zero policies for the past few years. We don't dig for oil in the North Sea. We don't dig for coal pretty much anywhere in the country. It's so amazing that you had all these stupid leftists for the past 10 years saying just stop oil. Now they found out what just stop oil actually means. And it means that there is going to be a lot of problems for people around the world. But that's down to our politicians as much as it is down to this war. And I think they should stop blaming Trump.
You're so right in terms of, listen, I think Trump's in trouble in Iran, but that's beside the point. The point is, you just... I don't know whether it's me, but I don't think this government, and all governments will have their moments, just don't believe this government understands the depth of anger amongst everyday Brits about their incompetence to listen. The Bell Hotel just gave you, migrants some oranges. Emily Thornberry, let's give migrants houses. Let's whatever your thoughts on the war, almost everything this man does turns to dust, doesn't it? He did relationships, policies. I mean, there's a picture there on screen of Wes Streeting. They're not speaking. You could see that the other day, and Starmer's now talking about the NHS. The whole thing's just a scat. I just think it's a disaster waiting to almost sort of just combust, really, pal. I really do.
I'm honest when I say I think Starmer is the worst Prime Minister Britain has ever had. And I just mean whether you agree with his policies or not, I disagree with most of them, but just his incompetence.
Yeah.
He doesn't inspire people. He's not a good orator.
He blinks a lot, and I always know he's telling the truth and telling a lie or doesn't know what he's talking about. He does that the whole time.
He's fidgeting and he's nervous and he can't connect with people and he's backtracking all the time and U-turning all the time. I mean, comparing to someone like Thatcher. Now, lots of your listeners will have agreed with Thatcher. Some will have disagreed with her, but she could hold an audience. She could give a speech. She could connect with people. She knew what she was about.
Blair, and I'm not even balancing it. I didn't agree with much in the end, and a lot of mistakes he made, but Blair was the same. There's no kudos. There's no kudos to Starmer. He looks like an out of his depth lawyer. I think that's a really good analogy. Brendan, listen, as ever, we love having you on. Enjoy Easter. We'll have you on next week, but thank you so much indeed. Chief Political Writer at Spike, the brilliant Brendan O'Neill, 7:20. We're live across the United Kingdom. Good morning. Talk Breakfast. What do you make of the BBC? Oh, God. 7:20 in the morning, Jez. I cannot believe this useless government is giving France £2 million a week. But what for? Are they serious? When the British people are struggling as much as they are? £2 million a week? Jez, the only reason Starmer is giving millions to France is that he is paying the fine for leaving the EU, says Michael. You're probably right. Jackie in Cornwall. We should tow the boats back to France and get a refund. They haven't got any money. They're just on the beach going, I want 50. I don't understand it. I obviously would be absolutely hopeless. That's like me saying to Christian, there's £500 million to produce the breakfast show, but you haven't turned up for two-thirds of the year. Does that sound relatable? Does that sound like it could work? He's just gone deal. Absolutely done. Morning, Graham.
Morning, Jezza. Great show as usual. Trolling through social media last night, I saw that Carl Turner, the MP for Hull, has been removed from the Parliamentary Labour Party. Did you know this?
Yes. Breaking news on Talk Breakfast. Two men, aged 47 and 45, have in the last hour been arrested in connection with the Golders Green arson attack. To me, symbolising absolutely a rise in anti-Semitism. Again, nothing from the government.
Breaking news. It's just a small matter. They have just an announcement saying transgender girls, i.e. boys, they must leave girl guiding by this September the 6th.
We are buying from Norway because they fully exploit their share of the North Sea oil and gas fields, and we don't. Alice in Wonderland nuts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's April Fool's Day, but don't worry about it. You would talk the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, loads in the news, the BBC. We're talking about Starmer. We're talking about hospitals running out. Actually, that's the point. Andy in WSM. Do you know what WSM stands for? Western Supermare. There's donkeys down. They've got, like, my parents, who are both dead, used to live down in that direction. Morning, Jez. NHS England says we're going to run out of some drugs. Isn't this the same agency that our plonker of a PM told us he was shutting down? Why are we even commenting on it? Very good point. NHS England's to Jim McKay. You didn't watch Porridge, did you? He's really worried about running out of aspirin, codeine, antidepressants and HRT medication. No comment. Don't look at me. Don't start, right? I'm not having a conversation about it. Is it true or is it just a vain attempt at getting more money? How do I know anything? Morning, Daz.
Morning, Jezza. Charlie. Give Starmer some credit, Jezza. Give it a wobble. He wanted to let Trump use the air bases, but Redhead Miliband wouldn't let him. Then he comes out and lies through his teeth to us. I've decided to not get involved. 2 days later, he gets involved. And then he comes out again. We are leading the way. 8 days to get a ship out to Cyprus. Pathetic. Give him some credit. Good grief, man. He's put the special relationship, whatever that is, back 30 years.
Couldn't have... Wait, did I say give him some credit? I said... all right, Daz. It's just, I'm trying to do the best I can, you grumpy kid. Margaret's got a point, which I really love. Margaret says, with the decline of my once great country, do you think it's time, Jez, that we received overseas aid from other countries? I mean, it's a foreign aid budget to England. That'd be good, because this is fantastic. Zarina, this is the best one ever. She said, good morning, Jez. We know why desperate migrants want to come to this country, because... our streets are paved with rubbish. Our seaside towns, run-down boarding houses and crumbling fairgrounds, and our great beaches, which were once great but are now illness, is a must, as you see, swim amongst the sewage. You walk down the high street, there's no shops, everything's boarded up. God alive. The healthcare is amazing. You can't get an appointment, and even if you do, there's no bleeding drugs, if you can even find them. We've got thriving communities. Oh, no, everybody's got knives and running around, and everybody's got mental health issues. Yes, Jez, we have a lot to offer, Sister Serena. Do you know what? I remember Robert Jenrick saying to me that he had, before he left the Tory party, that the whole problem was that they'd sit there and go, we know Britain's broken, but don't tell anybody because they'll blame us for it. There's so much that I think that is broken about our country. Just not just services, just spirit. Is it? Oh, I don't know. Let's speak to a man who knows about these things. God knows where he is. Let's find Nigel. Morning, Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. Where are you, dear?
Berlin, how are you?
Oh, Britain's broken. I'm not happy.
Yeah, Berlin isn't.
Where are you?
Berlin.
Berlin.
Yes.
Brilliant. Now, you see, I'm going to say something. This isn't meant to be contentious at all. After the Second World War, Germany was rightly pulverised, and all that happened to get rid of what we had to get rid of. When I thought personally, this is true about Brexit, I always thought about Germany. They went back into themselves, they took the punishment, and they became the most successful country. They built BMW and Bosch and Bang & Olufsen. They built communities and businesses that were really, really successful. And that's what, just throwing this in, that's what I thought we might do as an island, as a country, if we left Brexit. We've gone that backward that her descriptions, Arena, of us now, rubbish, our streets are paved with rubbish. It's not great, is it?
No, we won the Second World War, and it seemed as if Germany did way, way better than us. And indeed, we left the European Union to take back control. But the reality is that no government has properly taken back control. And the evidence clearly is our borders, where you're showing that we've got 69,000 people. Yeah. Since the last general election have come illegally into the United Kingdom. I mean, it is absolutely bonkers. We need to get a grip. And I know today is April Fool's Day, Jeremy, and you're hard pushed to look at any news story coming from the government, not to think that it's all part of an April Fool's joke. But the reality is, I'm afraid most of it is absolutely true. It's disheartening, quite frankly, when you get the First Admiral of the First Sea Lord saying that we're not ready for war. And we already know that by the reaction to what's happening in Iran. I mean, it is so sad.
It is sad, Nigel, and I was interested in what Robert Jenrick said. I want to put this to you. He said that in their last shadow cabinet meeting that he ever had before he defected to Reform, the general view was Britain is broken, but we can't say it. because that would result in people saying you've broken it. Britain is broken. Can I throw something at you that I know you'll love? Whilst talks broke down between France and England about this 500 million quid we give them to not police the migrant surge from France, Shabana Mahmood, quite vocal this week. I'm not doing this. You know, you need to accept targets. To which the French said no. She's still giving him 2 million quid a week, right? Which is, in my mind, ridiculous. But I'd like a comment on Labour MP Dame Emily Thornberry, the woman who was famously passed over for a cabinet post, said yesterday, Nigel Evans, I think thousands of migrants should get permanent residency so that they can claim benefits. Would you, like me, think that this... And I loved Brendan O'Neill's comment. He said this is nothing more than a voter creation scheme by the Labour Party that's on its back foot.
Yeah, do you know, I've known Emily Thornberry for many years. I was an MP for 32 years. And there's so much of me that wants to like Emily Thornberry. And there's so much of her that makes it impossible for me to do so. And every time she opens her mouth, I mean, she was the one who famously tore into White Van Man.
Yeah.
And people putting the flag of St. George or the Union Jack from their windows. She was the first to attack those people because she quite frankly doesn't understand them. She needs to get out a bit more. She needs to go into a pub, if a pub will let her into one, and talk to some of the locals about what they really feel. And the fact is that Britain, Alarm Clock Britain, has had enough. They've had enough of getting up early in the morning, working long hours in order to pay their taxes, in order to see their taxes given to people who have done nothing for this country, and some of them, of course, who have illegally entered the country. So, you know, and this is not an April Fool's joke, but we're all being taken as fools.
Yeah, no, I don't, you know, like you, I've spoken to Emily Thornberry, and there are times when you think, yes, she's all right, and there are times when you think, are you barking mad? How can you say? I don't believe these, you know, always politicians go, oh, you need to get out of Westminster. You just need to get your head out of your backside. You cannot possibly expect to say to hard-working Brits who are struggling, you know, actually, I think all migrants should come in. I don't know whether it's still that thing, Nige, where, you know, Britain is about the moral leader. No, I'm going to be really, it might sound wrong, I think Britain needs to concentrate on what's really important, which is actually its own indigenous population. What do you make, by the way? I don't want to specifically talk about Scott Mills. Yet again, the BBC flip-flopping, don't know which way to turn. They knew, they didn't, they did, they didn't, whatever. This organisation that can't seemingly find paedophiles within its midst, or find people or concentrate on people who are breaking the rules before giving them a job. This is the same, right? This is the same organisation that sent 46 million households letters going, if you don't pay our licence fee, Nige, we're going to sue you. Are they not... Is it not time to defund them? Is it not time to put them on a level playing field with the rest of us? Because most people I speak to are saying, yeah, there are good shows, but I'll choose to pay for those. I don't see why I should pay for something I don't watch.
Yep, and I can't remember the last time I watched a programme on BBC TV. That's so bad it's got. And another April Fool, of course, today, Jeremy, is the licence fee's gone up to £180. So it's no wonder 46 million letters are going out, because a lot of people are either getting rid of their TVs or basically they're just not watching. They're watching your show, they're watching other programs, they're watching Netflix, they're doing all sorts of other things. What's the one thing that the BBC really does well, of course, is pomp and ceremony, the great British traditions, you know, all that sort of Commonwealth Day.
Well, we're not allowed to have last night at the proms anymore.
Yeah,
and when they did the Queen's Feather, a pedo did that. It's not great. Have you seen that programme, by the way?
No, I haven't yet, but I do want to see it. I really do want to see it. But the reality is, of course, they've done away with their ceremonial unit. I think they're down to one person. It's the one thing that they did really, really well. And so it is about time that we looked very, very carefully at how the BBC ought to be managed in the future. And I'm afraid the licence fee is something that belongs in museums. It certainly isn't something that should continue.
Do you, I mean, you spent many years in government and many years doing what you're doing. This NHS England that Starmer says he wanted to ban, Sir James Mackay, you watched Porridge, didn't you, has come out this morning. It's frightening, people, this. We're going to run out of everything. Aspirin, codeine, antidepressants, HRT medications, all because of the Iraq war. The Iraq war's only been on 4 weeks and we're not that involved in it. This is more incompetence. Is this a cry by NHS England for more money for the NHS in your mind?
Well, it might well be, but of course it's another lesson that if we're crying over the fact that we haven't got a navy, then we should be crying even more that our National Health Service is going to run out of all these supplies when record levels of funding are going into this organisation.
Yeah.
I believe, Jeremy, it is time to get a Doge into the National Health Service to look at some of the obscene salaries that are being paying to some of the bosses who, quite frankly, are not delivering. There was one the other day, I think she was on over 230,000, and yet the trust that she was in charge of performs worse than any other trust in the United Kingdom. I mean, something is badly and seriously wrong, and unless we get a grip to it, then it's just going to continue. So a Doge for the NHS is, I believe, the right answer.
Nigel Evans, have I struck upon gold on April Fool's Day? Did you use a reform analogy there? Doge? Did you? Are we waiting for an announcement? Are you on April Fool's Day going to join reform?
No, it comes from the United States of America, Elon Musk, and whereas I think Reform did start to introduce it, but as we've seen, sadly, Jeremy, they've not really taken it to its full extent because council taxes are rising in the councils that Reform are in charge of. So it's really sad. But I think a Doge and a proper Doge, looking into how the fact that there's billions extra has gone into the National Health Service, and yet there's record waiting lists. We're running out of drugs. The junior doctors are going on strike.
Oh, don't get me on that. Do you know what I'd do with that? Honest to God, Streeting. Oh, I'll sort it out the minute he's in government. Gives them 28% with absolutely no criteria on which to not come back. No strength from the government's point of view. Back they come. And Starmer yesterday, again, half-baked. If you don't back down and accept what we're offering, 35% over 3 years, I'm going to withhold the 4,000 training places I was going to increase. No, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd say I'm not giving you any more. Do one. I don't understand why we are being held to ransom by junior doctors. And by the way, as a politician, do you notice the chasm between Wes Streeting and Sir Keir Starmer now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we all know everybody's on manoeuvres because May the 7th is coming.
Yep.
And the expectation in the papers today is that the Labour Party are likely to lose between 1,000 and 2,000 of their council seats. They're going to do badly in Scotland and Wales. And there's only going to be one person who is going to pay the price. And where Streeting is going to be on manoeuvres, Angela Rayner's already on manoeuvres, Ed Miliband, there's a ton of them already on manoeuvres. And I've got to say, I want to get on to the story about Carl Turner, if I can.
Yes, please.
Because he lost the whip yesterday, and I got in touch with him to
do you know how he found out?
Yeah, absolutely.
He found out from us. He found out from us. That just about sums the Labour Party up, doesn't it?
Journalists told him about it, and I think all he's doing is standing up for jury trials, and I should know more than most people how important jury trials are. Now, I've just started a blog yesterday, and Carl is the subject of my first blog. It's called otherNigel.com, so I'm taking the mick a bit there. But nonetheless, it's not just about jury trials, though. If you think about it, Jeremy, 10 Labour MPs voted against banning getting rid of jury trials. Carl wasn't one of them. Carl was one of 90 Labour MPs who abstained. Now, he's the one who's losing the whip. And I think there's something a little bit more to it.
I think it's McSweeney. I think it's
McSweeney too. And you've got to remember that Morgan McSweeney is married to Imogen Walker, who is a Labour MP. She happens to also be an assistant whip. Now, this decision will have been taken by Jonathan Reynolds, I suspect, but it wouldn't have been sanctioned without Keir Starmer saying, yes, OK, remove the whip.
Slightly dictatorial, isn't it? If you have an opinion that deviates even a little bit from your leader, you're out.
No, it's a touch of the Ayatollahs. There's no two ways about that.
Touch of the Ayatollahs.
But I've got to say, I think it's more to do with Carl putting his head above the parapet. He has said, well, apparently 3/4 of the British people are saying, which is he does not believe that McSweeney's phone was stolen. That's what has been reported by Guido Fawkes in a poll that says 3/4 of the British public think it's more than a bit fishy. And I'm afraid that Carl has paid the price. It's got to be more than just jury trials. As I say, 10 Labour MPs voted against the abolition of jury trials, and none of them have lost the whip.
Well, you might not know this, but not only did the producer, Ryan, excellent guy from Drive Time, tried to book him for something and said, this is the situation, but we've got the exclusive. Carl is on this show after 9 o'clock this morning. And do you know what? You're so right in as well, Nige, because all my viewers, loads of them will go, don't have to agree with his politics, just think he's a proper man, a proper MP, the sort of constituency MP that cares and would do his job. I completely and utterly do that. When am I being invited on your blog then, as you keep coming on this damn show?
Yeah, we're working at it at the moment, but...
you can interview me, Nigel Evans.
I'd love to interview you, Jeremy. I mean, it would be box office, quite frankly. As I say, increasing numbers of people are getting their news from shows like yours because the days of mainstream media basically dictating to the rest of us how we should think are long over.
Couldn't agree more. Got to run.
The day when we get rid of the licence fee.
Good man. Good luck. Do a podcast. We'll come on. You won't be able to afford me. Good man. Nigel Evans in Berlin. Morning, Dan.
Morning, Jezza. It's Dan from Kent. It was mentioned on your show yesterday that the licence fee is only a price of a cup of coffee a week. Maybe so. But I wouldn't go to a shop, buy a cup of coffee, and if it tasted awful, keep going back to that shop. I'll go elsewhere. But I wouldn't be expected to still pay for that awful coffee either. But that's the BBC licence fee. I might not watch 1 second of any BBC output, but I still have to buy a licence if I watch live TV. That's where it's wrong.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 17 minutes to 7 ahead of the 8 o'clock news. Angela Levin talks everything Royals. Right now, my resident doctor, good friend, top man, Dr. Aaron Ghosh, owner of Ghosh Medical. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I've got a call I want to do with you in just a tick. The reason we wanted to get you on, I know it's brief today, the head of NHS England, a body that even Keir Starmer says he wants to get rid of, Sir Jim Mackay, I don't know if you watched it, says he's really worried that within days, and this is all to do with Iraq, supplies of everything, aspirin, codeine, antidepressants and HRT medication plus syringes and gloves will run out, Aaron Ghosh. Is this not just seriously NHS England trying to get more money out of the government?
It absolutely could be. I don't think we have any medical shortages at this moment in time. But should we be concerned by it? Well, yes, we probably should, because about a third of our medication comes from places like India, cheap generic medicines, which make up the bulk of the NHS. However, the NHS has very strong contracts. It's such a big supplier. I don't think we're going to see those sort of shortages right now, but I do think maybe for pharmacies, for GPs or for private practices, they might see prices starting to increase as the cost of getting these medicines over is going to go up.
Let's go to Derbyshire, if that's OK, Aaron. Joanne, good morning. You're on Talk Breakfast. Literally a minute. Dr. Aaron Ghosh with you as well.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I've been since 2010 helping patients get their medication. I know for a fact that NHS England are talking absolute rubbish, and if you want paper proof, I can happily provide it.
How do you know, quickly? How do you know they're talking rubbish?
I had a problem with medication myself. I phoned up the drug company. They have it on their computer, exactly where all the meds are, all in the UK, all the time. If there is a problem, they chuck it on the ferry from Cherbourg and it comes over to England overnight. That's what they did for me when I couldn't get so-called medicine, and I got it the very next day.
Joe, thank you very much indeed. Aaron, I don't ever want you to become political, but it's become pretty obvious in the last couple of days that suddenly our government's blaming everything on the Iraq war, whether it's oil and medicines are now included. The message, though, to people is don't panic. That's why we get you on, because we want people to be reassured. Because when people are being told this, naturally they go, you know, driving past the petrol station, they can't even fill up and, oh, I get ill, I'm not going to get any medication. That's not the message, is it?
I think if you went and did the stupid thing of trying to overbuy or overget your medication now, you'll actually create a problem that isn't there. We have a serious shortage medical protocol, which we haven't instructed yet. So we aren't at that stage in any shape or form. People might remember we had some shortages with things like HRT, and during COVID, there were some issues with painkillers. But we've now made processes put in place which actually counterbalance that. So we don't need to worry about these things anywhere at this moment in time. If the war continues, let's have a look then. But it's not.
But also, just to touch upon it before you go, you make a really salient point. You'd have thought, would you not, that NHS England, the NHS in its entirety, after COVID, would have put in different plans for those sorts of shortages in the future, right?
Especially for very key medications like cancer medication, pain medication. They really do. There is medication that needs to come over very, very quickly by air freight because it's biological, it's live medicine, or it has to be cold stored. So there are medications which will have a disruption in supply. But the NHS is a big, big buyer. It has a huge amount of protocols and it has a huge amount of contracts. And those medical supplies will be guaranteed because they don't want to mess with those supplies.
Somebody said to me, he's really good, isn't he? Well, of course he's worked with me for years. We love you, man. Thank you so much indeed. The Gosh Medical Group's Aaron Ghosh there. Fantastic. 30 minutes to 8, 0344 499 1000. The message is don't panic. We believe this is NHS England's Sir Jim Mackay making a plea for more money. We're not going to run out of medicines. Brilliant. Anytime soon. Morning, Nick.
Morning, Jez. It's Nick from Hove. Jez, I've got to correct you on something, mate. I appreciate you're live on TV now, but we've got to stop saying that not having a TV licence is illegal, because it's not. If you're not watching anything live as it's being broadcast or using anything on BBC iPlayer, you're legally entitled, quite rightfully, to either cancel it or just stop paying it, because you're not using the services required for that licence. Have a great morning, mate.
I'm really glad you did this, and we've just found this. I wanted to make the point. You do not need to pay for a UK TV licence if you never watch or record live TV on any channel, including terrestrial satellite streaming services like YouTube and Netflix, and you never use the BBC iPlayer. A licence is only required for viewing live, broadcast-style content or BBC On Demand. Does that mean, don't look at me, Christian, and hover your finger, does that mean that they can only catch you if you're doing it when they come round, or do they know if you're watching it? They can absolutely tell if you're watching it, so that was my point. I'm not able, Nicky boy, to sit here and say to people you shouldn't do it. I don't, though, think that an organisation that sends 46 million licence fee letters basically saying if you don't pay our money, we're going to sue your backside. I don't think that's fair at all. 12 minutes to 8, 0344 499 1000. I missed her yesterday. I was miserable. I went back to my hotel room and cried because I missed her, but she's here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we give it up. Royal biographer Angela Levin. Good morning.
Good morning.
Very lovely to see you. The first part that I want to talk to you about is a little bit sort of political, but you don't have to get involved.
No, I'd love to get involved.
The state visit of King Charles and Queen Camilla at the end of April, 4 weeks away, to America, looks like it will go ahead. Starmer, we know, does not have the best relationship with Grumpy Trumpy. Last night, Trump went, get your own oil. Starmer went, I'm in bases. Then he said, you are. Is King Charles being used as a pawn here, Angela, by our weak Prime Minister?
Well, I find it a very difficult thing to be, because he can't stand Trump. and you have to have the tell him what's going on. I mean, it's just very peculiar because the banquet and everything is going to take place and nobody's going to know anything about it. The thing is, it's for the 250th anniversary, and
250th anniversary of what?
it's of
American independence, is that right?
Yes, America, yes. And it's very extraordinary that he wants him to do that, and yet he's cutting out anything that is to do with Trump.
This is
The
Starmer
king
you're talking
can't
about.
go away unless he has the permission of the Prime Minister. So he's not going of his own voluntarily feeling. He just...
He's going to represent
told.
Britain. You said at the beginning you don't think Charles likes Donald Trump at all, no?
No, he doesn't.
Does he like Keir Starmer?
Absolutely not, I'm sure.
King.
Who does? Who does like him?
I love it. I could sit and have a coffee morning with you forever. You're blinding. You're brilliant. Interestingly, we've heard yesterday, Harry won't jet in to meet him. Oh, that's shocking news. Did you see that thing where Harry and Meghan, through a source, let it be known that they'd quite like to be invited to Sandringham this summer? What planet are they on?
It's very cheeky, isn't it? Well, that's deliberate. Harry is doing that, telling somebody that it's leaking it, and that he will look very good, wanting to be family and all that. And Charles will look very bad because he doesn't want to invite him. But actually, if Harry really wanted to go, he wouldn't have leaked that.
No.
He would have spoke to him quietly, apologised. Not. Meghan said she would never go until she got an official apology. Now, can you think that the King is going to give her an apology like that and then invite them round for...
I'd love to be inside that ginger boy's brain because I can guarantee, almost as much as I can guarantee everything, that he realises he's married the wrong woman. He's desperate to mend fences with his father and he's terrified at everything that he does that she's going to jump up and down. Talking of which, talking about the King, this is interesting. We heard a lot about Eugenie and Beatrice being dragged into the mire of their mother and father, the Andrew and Sarah and Epstein and all that, and the press have been quite hard on them. Overnight, we discovered that King Charles has in fact invited Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie to Royal Ascot, and they will also be in one of the royal carriages down that comes from the castle after lunch all the way down the course. That's a public show of support by their uncle, isn't it?
I think it's April the 1st.
You don't think he's invited? Do you?
No, I don't think that he would do that. Why would he do that? It's written that he's doing it because he wants to show that he wants to support Andrew. He wants to support Andrew? Oh, of course he doesn't.
Wow, that could be an exclusive. So you think they're not going in any way to Royal Ascot? You think that's April Fool's?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
I might be wrong, but I can't see that it wasn't.
I mean, I must admit that when I read it, I thought, hold on a minute, it was only a week ago we were being told that they weren't being invited to Royal Ascot. You might have unearthed a gem there. Maybe you're right, Angela Levin. To be fair, Christian, she's right. They're not coming, they're being kept out of sight, and all of a sudden, look at the smile on her face.
Yeah, they're inviting both husbands as well. I can't see that that's... But I might be wrong. I haven't seen it.
Angela Marple at it again. It is in multiple papers, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they're at it. Here's the question for you. Here's the question. You know Fergie ain't been seen anywhere?
Yes.
The rumour is she could be shacked up with Andrew. Really? In the mobile caravan?
Andrew's sleeping in a caravan, and I saw pictures of it yesterday. A very small bed. It's a bed for one. So this is not a second bedroom there.
Sorry, why is he sleeping in the caravan? Why?
Well, he likes it because it's very modern and it's a very sort of regal.
A caravan? I'm not being disrespectful. My in-laws stayed in a caravan.
What you or I felt, but it's beautiful. It's lovely. It's got,
running water.
Yeah, not just running water, but everything is done beautifully.
Is it?
And it's let out for £13 a day. But he wants it for a much longer time, and he loves it because it's so.
Did you say 1-3?
£13 a day.
It's not going to be that much quality, Angela, is it? To be fair,
No,
at
but
£13 a day.
No, it wouldn't be, but it's lovely. If
I
you get
reckon he's going to become like Stigger the Dump. I think he's going to stop. I do honestly think Prince Andrew's going to stop washing, stop shaving, and live in his caravan and end up just chanting in the woods. I do. I think he's going to walk around and return to nature because nobody. Honestly, I can see him sitting cross-legged eating father beans or something. Extraordinary, extraordinary. But you don't think she's shacked up with him then? You don't think that's...
Well, I think they might go off together when everything's calmed down with the war. It can't really go anywhere now. So
she could, in the end...
She's having some stuff on her face done. She's having a lot of makeup and, trying to...
She's having plastic surgery to change her appearance?
I don't know whether it's plastic surgery. That I absolutely don't know. But she is trying to sort of start again and look much nicer because, women get wrinkly after a while, and so she wants to get rid of all her wrinkles.
I absolutely love you. I want to adopt you. Fergie's having facial surgery because she's wrinkly. He's going to become a hobbit living in the field behind the caravan. They might run away to the Middle East after the war finishes. You reckon it's an April Fool's joke that Eugenie and Beatrice have been invited to Royal Ascot, and not only does King Charles hate Trump, he also hates Keir Starmer. We love you, Angela 11. This is Talk Breakfast.
When conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts. UK. on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning, welcome back. This is Talk Breakfast. It is, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock Brit. We're proud of that, wherever you are in the UK. This is your station, this is your show, right? I've said it before, all this stuff in the newspapers about BBC Radio 2 and Scott Mills. Why do you need Radio 2? If you want news and views and your chance to get involved, you listen to Talk. If you want Talk Sport, you go to Big Alan Brazil, the legend, who's next door to me that way. There's three of us in a line. And if you want music, my friends, you go to the best music DJ in the history of the land on Virgin Breakfast, who's that way. Chris Evans, you got the whole thing, mate. I don't even understand this big debate. Listen, if you want to be on in the next couple of hours, we'd love to have you. 0344 499 1000 is your voice note, is your call number. Text to 87222. What are you waking up to on April the 1st? I know, don't go there. We've been watching our backs all morning. BBC bosses, it now turns out, did know that Scott Mills had been questioned under caution. Don't need to get into the specifics of it. Safe to say, they don't seem to know which way to turn. They get found out the whole time. Is their organisation full of bad apples? I don't know. But I will tell you this. For an organisation that demands, what, 180 quid now from us, even if we don't watch it, for an organisation that doesn't play on a level playing field like the rest of the media, and for an organisation that's so interested not in people, it bombards 46 million households in the last 12 months with letters saying if you don't pay your licence fee, we will sue you and try and get you prosecuted. I think the BBC, in its current sense, is no longer fit for purpose. We'll talk about Starmer. He's been branded weak. He's ferrying the King and Queen off to Grumpy Trumpy to have a chat. Trump's thrown out overnight and gone get your own oil. Starmer, that's going fantastically well. Also, the UK and France. Talks broke down last night. You know, the French want another 500 million a year to actually not police migrants coming into this country. Shabana Mahmood stayed firm. She's only given them 100 million while discussions are ongoing. I don't understand that. And what I really want to draw your attention to is two other things. One, Labour MP Dame Emily Thornberry must be mad. Last night she said, and I quote, thousands of migrants, in fact any migrant, should be given permanent residency and should go on benefits. Emily, get out and go to Crowborough, go to Epping, go somewhere that's not in the bubble of Westminster and understand your words are simply seen as a voter creation scheme. You've lost the Muslim vote to the Greens and now you're thinking that you can import a vote to get re-elected. Why don't you put the British people first? Like your colleague Carl Turner, the only Labour MP brave enough to stand up and say what he thinks, thrown out of the Labour Party last night. Many people wanted to speak to him. He'll be on this show after 9 o'clock this morning. Right now, we'll say good morning to Wayne.
Morning, Jezza. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham, mates. Carl Turner is probably the best Labour MP that they've got. Very hard-working, very well-spoken man. I've got a lot of time for him, and I can see people on your station have. Well, let's be honest, mate, he's probably better off, isn't he? It's no coincidence, mate, that since you offered him the slot, call Carl, he's had his whip removed. Jezza, you've cost the man his job. Keep up the good work, my man. Ta-ra, mucker.
You see, that's the problem. That's the problem, if you're me. You get blamed for everything. Let's speak to the Reform UK Shadow Home Secretary, a friend of mine. Zia Yusuf, I get blamed for everything, man.
I think you should take responsibility for that one, Jeremy.
I'm very happy. I tell you, you would agree with me. Carl Turner, it smacks of so much of this Labour government. A man who you would want as your constituents MP, don't agree with everything he says, but brave enough to stand up and call out the ridiculous jury trials fiasco under Lammy, able to stand up and call out McSweeney and loses the whip. Zia, welcome, welcome, welcome. Where shall I start with you? Let's start with your favourite subject. Talks break down between the UK and France yesterday. They want 500 million. Shabana Mahmood, pretending to be hard, went, no, you're not getting it. You know, we want targets. They went, no. But we're still giving them £100 million for not doing a job. And I'd like your thoughts on that, and also Labour MP Emily Thornberry. Let's just get as many in, give them residency and benefits. It's a joke, isn't it, Zia?
Yeah, so let's start with the money that the British taxpayers have been paying to France. So firstly, let's put this into context. £700 million is what the British taxpayers already had to hand over to the French. As a result, it started under the Tories. And now it's continued under Labour. So that 700 million has already been paid. That's obviously an enormous amount of money. Think about how much good that could have done in our country. And the whole point of that money was to stop the boats from coming. And in that time, well north of 100,000 have come in illegally. Obviously, they come day after day after day. We've seen that. In fact, more have come illegally under Starmer than any other Prime Minister. But obviously, you know, under the Tories writ large, it was a much bigger number even than that. So it's obvious that the French are not doing what they said that they would do. And instead of saying, A, we're not renewing this deal because you basically scammed us, and B, give us our money back, please, which is exactly what Reform would do, Shabana Mahmood is looking to extend it. And one of the things about all of this, it's really interesting we're even talking about this, Jeremy, it's because rather than focusing on securing our borders, exercising our sovereignty, leaving the ECHR, derogating from a host of international treaties, creating a proper deportation team, and actually securing our borders so that no one actually gets to come here illegally, they're detained and sent straight back to the country from which they came. We haven't had a politician do a single one of those. Everything I just mentioned, they have literally not done a single one of those. Instead, they're just sending huge amounts of British taxpayers' money abroad. It's a bit like saying, I'm going to pay local gangs to not to come in and rob my house.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to leave the doors unlocked and leave the windows unlocked and leave all my valuables lying around. It makes absolutely no sense. This is a sovereign country. That money should be spent on securing our border. And it's not just about stopping the boats. Yes, we'll do that. And we've got to do that and secure our border. We've also got to deport the well north of 1 million illegal migrants already here. And as you can see, Shabana Mahmood isn't even willing to even start doing the necessary.
In terms of that, what do you make of Dame Emily Thornberry, who literally, I mean, I think it's a voter creation scheme. I don't care what anybody tells me. I think the Labour Party has looked at its left flank and thought the Greens, after Gorton and Denton, have moved towards gaining that 4 million Muslim vote in the United Kingdom. She sparked fury yesterday, Zia. She says that thousands of migrants, anybody that comes should get permanent residency so they can claim benefits. What an absolute joke.
Yeah, well, but I want to be completely frank with people listening to this. We're already not far off that, right? We're not far off that already. So as outrageous as that is, as insane as that is, frankly, as treacherous as I think that is,
yeah,
we're already pretty much there as a country. If you break into the country illegally, you skip. You know, here's the irony, right? You know, if you actually come in on a legal visa, even if it's highly questionable and you shouldn't have been allowed in, and it was basically an administrative error by Boris Johnson's government that let you in, you came in legally, you actually have to await a significant period of time before you can access certain welfare things. If you break into the country without permission, you get a complimentary ferry service and border force, you get a health check when you arrive, you get a taxi to a nice, in many cases, 4-star hotel. Some of them have pools. You have your television license paid for. You get days out and activities. Look, I could go on. It's an absolute disgrace. And, you know, I think it is a folly, actually, for Labour, because what maybe they don't realise is, you see, that position she's espousing, that, oh, you know, anyone should be able to come and immediately get everything. That's basically the Zach Polanski position, right? Zach Polanski has been advocating for that position now since he came onto the scene. The Green Party don't believe in borders at all. And what Emily Thornberry now is espousing is exactly that same view. What she doesn't actually realise is, as you saw in Gorton and Denton, these people are not going to vote for Labour.
Can I ask you a question? Do you almost putting politics aside, man to man, do these people genuinely believe that the majority of Brits who are in the middle of struggling to pay their bills here, in the middle of struggling to understand the unfairness of a system that seems to put anybody that does right by work and tax and not breaking the law, do they honestly think that the majority of people will vote for this rubbish? Because I've never known a swell of opinion as has been apparent in the last few months. Do these politicians, are they blind to it or deaf to it?
They are willfully blind and deaf to it. Look, go and look at X. She actually turned off replies. Emily Thornberry, when she was espousing this view that people who come here and effectively invading the country should basically get free access to lots of stuff and become residents straight away, she turned off replies. So it's not surprised that they've got no idea what people are thinking. Look, people are sick and tired in this country. If you wake up early, you set your alarm before you go to bed, you wake up early, you do your commute, you go to work, you graft. What's your experience of living in this country? You have your taxes go up all of the time, either literally going up directly or through fiscal drag where they don't raise the threshold. You're seeing your cost of living go through the roof. And the official numbers starts with a 3. Everybody who actually does their shopping and experiences life in this country knows that that number is much higher than that. Your rent is going up all of the time. Your supermarket shop's going up all of the time. Now, the cost of going on a holiday or even a nice trip on a Saturday with your kids, if you have kids, is getting more expensive all of the time. If you want to go for a walk, there might be somebody walking in the opposite direction with a big face covering on, looking menacing, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. You go to your local shop, they'll tell you that shoplifting has all but been legalized in this country. If you have your smartphone stolen, as the data came out just a couple of days ago, 99% of scenarios where smartphone's stolen, there's no action taken at all against the perpetrator. In most cases, they're not even identified. And on the flip side, if you break into the country illegally, Jeremy, you come here without permission, you're a 26-year-old man from Syria, Afghanistan or Iraq, which is pretty much the median person into the country. As I said, you get a free ferry service from Border Force across Hospital Channel. You get a taxi, you get free accommodation, free food, free meals, all the leisure time in the world, all paid for by the person who is grafting listening to this program. That's why people are so angry. And I want to tell people, I want to be really crystal clear. If you vote for reform and we get a reform government, Nigel's the Prime Minister, I'm the Home Secretary, all of that will be reversed. The person in scenario A, their taxes will start to come down, the cost of living will start to come down. We've already talked about actions we'll take at the fuel pump, but there'll be a raft of things to reward people. We will incentivize and reward people who graft for themselves and for their family and for their communities and their country. And if you're in the country illegally, you will be deported back to the country from which you came. Full stop.
I left this next story until you came on because I want to know. It's very easy to have. We're very grateful when you come on, but what I like is to hear constructive advice. Stuart in High Wycombe saying what many people are saying. Can I discuss what has taken place in Clapham over the last few days, as featured in the Daily Mail? This is basically, my friends, young people apparently off TikTok looting and running amok in Clapham. We read that shops have closed for fear of looting. The police nowhere to be seen. Not exerting any control. When you look at that Clapham chaos here, genuinely, mobs of youths running wild, if you're Home Secretary, what do you do about that?
Well, the first thing is, what you're seeing there is the first signs, frankly, of a society that is in extremely deep decay. I mean, it looks like something, frankly, from I want to say a failed state. If you just saw that rolling on your screens, if you saw that 15 years ago, you would not think that that was Britain. You would think that could not be Britain, right? So that's the first thing. We've got to acknowledge what the state of affairs is in this country. The police, look, there's a lot of great people, great men and women who work really hard in the police. I speak to them all the time, and I want to give credit to them. But we've got to be honest. The state of policing in this country, people do not feel safe. Most of the time when I speak to people who've been victims of crime, they say they don't even bother reporting it because they're so confident. They've heard all of the anecdotes. The police are, your bike gets stolen. Somebody comes in and steals £199 worth of stuff from your shop. There's not going to be any consequences. So here's what we do. The first thing is we have to create a lot more prison space. the Tories imported 6.5 million net new people over their 14 years, and they built just 482 prison places to cope. So a lot of the people who are causing a lot of this crime, there's simply nowhere to put them. So we're going to dramatically increase prison capacity. I'm going to deport all of the foreign nationals in our jails. That's 11,000 foreign nationals languish in our jails. Those are gone straight away. That creates the space. We'll dramatically increase the size of our police force, and we're going to change the incentive structure for the police. So the only thing that will matter for getting paid more as a police officer, getting promoted, getting more recognition, getting into the top brass, will be simply arresting criminals and ensuring there's enough evidence for a prosecution and getting criminals off our streets. My priority will be the victims and the innocent British people who are subjected to this kind of lawlessness. We ran a whole campaign saying Britain is lawless, and we say Britain is broken and Britain can be fixed and it needs reform.
I'm completely...
Let me
jump in.
How can you watch this and say that that's not true?
No, it's absolutely outrageous. But and I listen, music to many people's ears. But, you know, I'm paid to do a job and you do a job. The truth of the matter is, it all sounds fantastic. More police, stronger sentencing, more prison sentences, people serve their crime, and we get rid of this feral, disobedient, disgusting... I can't even bear to watch it. We get stronger. But the critics of reform, and I have to put this to you, will say, that sounds great, but how are you going to pay for things that, to any sane human being, we should have in place already? Reform makes that commitment. How do you finance this here? Because, and you would understand this question, this country is fed up with politicians saying they'll do that over 15, 16 years now and not doing it. What's the difference to reform? How are you going to afford to do it all?
We just simply stop wasting British taxpayers' money on things that have no positive impact on their lives. So let's give you examples of cuts we've already announced that would pay more than pay for everything I just described and make people feel safe. Number one, we would end the insane, quote, carbon capture experiments, Jeremy, that this Labour government, Mad in Miliband, is spending £9 billion over the course of this Parliament on, quote, carbon capture experiments. All right. We've got no interest in trying to become Greta Thunberg's best friend in the way that he has. So we're going to scrap that immediately. That's $9 billion. We will reform PIP, the personal independent payments, in terms of welfare. That'll save another £9 billion per year, actually, by 2029, by ending those payments for people with what's called low-level anxiety, putting a time limit on and getting those people back to work as they should. Because people with low-level anxiety, the best thing for them, actually, is not wallowing at home forever, which is how the current system works. It's getting them back to work. That already is in the tens of billions of pounds of savings, Jeremy. More than covers dramatically more prison space, deporting those foreign national offenders, tens of thousands more police.
Would you build more prisons here?
Would you build more? Of the police so they understand they're there to detect, prevent crime and to arrest criminals.
Would you build more prisons as Home Secretary?
Oh, we have to. As I said, the Tories exploded the population. Think about that. They added 6.5 million net new people, 12 million gross in 14 years, and they added 482 prison places to cope, Jeremy. It is one of the most spectacular betrayals of the British people.
I should throw this at you. This is from Miliband. You'll love this. Carbon capture. I don't know what it means. Will make working people in Britain's hard-working communities better off, breathing new life into their towns and cities and reindustrialising the country through our plan for change, whilst bankrupting us all, yeah?
Well, maybe that new life coming through our cities was the footage that we just saw, Mr. Miliband. No, we don't want it. Thank you very much.
Couldn't agree more. Finally, Bud, I'm really interested, if you were elected at the BBC, this is my pet hate and has been for years. The BBC, we don't need to get into the specifics of Scott Mills. We don't need to know whether the BBC knew or they didn't. What I want to point at is an organisation that is seemingly incapable of keeping control, doesn't seem to vet his presenters, flip-flops left, right and centre, has the temerity to, in the midst of disaster after disaster, send 46 million household letters saying if you don't pay your licence fee, we're going to prosecute you. Does reform, do you believe that the time has come for the BBC to be made to play on the same level playing field as the rest of us? Because millions of people are saying, why would I spend nigh on 180 quid and risk prosecution if I don't, when I have nothing to do with an organisation that is biased and doesn't make programmes I'm interested in? Surely it's time for change of the BBC, Zia.
Well, look, you know, I was on BBC's Laura Kuenssberg show on Sunday morning, and she put to me some questions about reforms vetting, and it took quite a lot of self-control, given it was a Sunday morning show, to not bring up Mr. Jimmy Savile or Mr. Hugh Edwards or any other number of people like that we could bring up. You know, the BBC now has spent so much time moralising, I think, straight-talking, right-thinking people in this country, particularly through their newsroom. And I also made the point to them, and I did say this on air, actually, that while, of course, hold reform to account for everything, including candidates, all of that's fine. But the incredible bias that they show in just failing to cover completely other parties when they have far worse situations.
McSweeney's phone thing was on the front page of every newspaper. It was not on the BBC in the 5 days it dominated everywhere else. Listen, I make no secret of this. It's my number one thing. I think the BBC is biased. I think their coverage is biased. People will say, you're saying that, Carl, but you're on a to the right-leaning station. Yeah, but we know what we are and we say what we are.
And
the
you're
BBC...
not funded by... people aren't forced to pay a proportion of your salary, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
And you've got to earn a living. Have to make enough money to survive. And not only the BBC forcing people in this country to pay all of these presenters. I mean, how long have reform voters or any sensible people in this country been forced to pay a significant portion of Gary Lineker's salary while he was insulting them, looking down his nose at everybody and pontificating about things, frankly, I think he knows absolutely nothing about? That's the important moral distinction here. And look, the BBC, I think, has become, is in no place to moralise on people. It should be there, its newsroom should be there simply to report on the news, not tell people how to think, especially when one examines their own record of vetting and, frankly, the moral catastrophes that have occurred through the BBC over the last few decades.
Quick final question. Would a reform government defund or deregulate or change the rules for the BBC?
Yeah, we're looking at that very, very closely. We've got to make sure it's something that protects some of the brand value of the BBC that does still exist. Strangely, it does in certain areas, but the newsroom is clearly completely biased. And so we're looking very closely at options on doing that. We're very open to it.
Zia, it's always a pleasure, mate. Could listen to you for a long time. Thank you so much indeed. Shadow Home Secretary Zia Youssef talking about the Clapham looting, talking about the situation with migrants, talking about the Labour Party, talking there about the BBC. If that's your bag, I hope that was of interest. If you disagree, 0344 499 1000. Jez, Labour throwing our cash away to the French is now unforgivable when we can't even drive 100 bleeding yards, says Kevin Southampton, without bashing my car up on a pothole. Morning, Zane.
Jezza, good morning. Great show so far. You just referenced the amount of letters that the BBC is sending, 46 million. Who's paying for all them letters? We know the price of a stamp. We know it's not cheap. Still a lot of money. I don't know who's paying for all them letters. Is it coming out of the fee that we already pay for? Is that more wasted money that we're spending on there? Who knows? Maybe someone knows.
what they're doing to people that have been trying to raise this. I couldn't even tell you how many times people tried to have me arrested. You know, and I've had people at my home, I've had people target my children. I've been through worse in the last 13 years as an activist for exposing this than what I did as a child. You know, and it's not just me that's going through that, and it's not just a thing of the past either. Anyone that dares to challenge this becomes a target. That has to stop.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 27 minutes past 8. Morning, Jez. Charlie from Blythe. Why can't we supply France with AI drones that spot the boats before they leave? Why don't they bloody well buy them from themselves with the 500 million that we're giving them every year? Phil Downs, if Emily Thornberry believes all illegals should be given benefits, maybe she should volunteer half her wages after tax to help pay for the increased benefit bill that she'd like to inflict on the rest of us. Quite right. I think, says Margaret in Birmingham, I think the King likes Starmer, do you? And Andrew and Fergie will get remarried and ride off into the Middle East in their caravan. I think you need to take something. Margaret. Oh, sorry? Joanna from Salisbury, you fell for Angela Levin's April Fool. Andy, in a luxury £13 a night caravan. You're so gullible. Listen, I love Angela, but that's the sort of thing Angela says and means. Andrew has turned into a Peaky Blinder. There you go. What's this, Jez? When a friend was taken ill in Spain, her husband hadn't got enough of his prescription tablets. He pays £9.90 in the UK, £1.70 or €1.70 in Spain. Jez, so many people trying to get in touch. Brian, why did I do that? Jez, the BBC now pushes most of its programmes for the sector of the public that has no reason to buy a licence, i.e. youth. It has mothballed the pomp and ceremony department which serves the sector of the public that actually gives a damn, the older generations. Brian in Dorset. And finally, Brett says, do you think Starmer's calendar only has April the 1st printed every day for 365 days? It's 8:30. We're live across the UK. Whatever you want to say, whatever you want to do, 0344 499 1000. The Tory party. At the moment, politicians are on recess, which means they go back to their constituencies, do constituency work, maybe get involved in the local council elections. Not that we're talking about that. As far as I can see, there's only one person working in the Tory party, and that is the legend that is Matt Vickers, deputy chairman. He's got 57 different jobs, and he's still smiling on his own in his little room at home where he's got a flag and a little yarn photo. Morning, Matty.
Morning. Plenty to do back here. We're enjoying it. Plenty going on. The air's cleaner.
I love... so you're saying... You said it yesterday, London stinks. What I love about you is there's always joy in your heart. Mate, I just want to fire loads at you. I did at Zia, some great answers from him. Can we start with Carl Turner? The only Labour MP who, genuinely, I have on this show, who... Many people will say, like they say about you, but they say, Carl, don't have to agree with your opinions, but you're a good, solid man who's got an opinion, who's brave enough to stand by it. Thrown out last night and told by one of our producers, the Labour Party hadn't told him, Carl lost the whip for claiming that Morgan McSweeney lied about the phone theft. Interestingly, he was also quite vocal about the jury trials, but abstained, didn't vote against. But he's been thrown out, which perhaps says more, not only about his values, but also about Starmer's dictatorial leadership, doesn't it?
Well, I think they have it. And Carl Turner, one of the few people who actually dare to speak, to talk and speak to real people and have real conversations with real people. And one of the few people in the Labour Party with the spine, with the backbone to stand up to this appalling decision that's being made about jury trials. And what happens? He's out the door. It's all about chums in the Labour Party. It's about staying stum, doing the right thing, appointing people regardless of what the vetting says. That's the way you got on in the Labour Party, clearly.
But it's a shame because Carl's a really good guy. And I'm going to be really, really honest. Christian might look at me. We have secured his first interview since the decision. And he's already having pressure. We're just talking to him. He's having pressure put on him not to talk to me after 9 o'clock. So we're just being honest about that because I think he's a good man. Let's talk about migration. Shabana Mahmood talks the talk, Matty. I'm not giving in to the French. We want targets. They go, no, give me 500 million. And she goes, no, I'm not. But she gave him 100 million whilst discussions are ongoing.
She talks the talk. She dishes out our dosh like there's no tomorrow, just like Keir Starmer. It's not about, they fly, what do we call them, Air Miles Starmer or whatever? They fly all over the place. They do their thing, but actually, it's not about the cost of getting them there and accommodating them while there. It's a cost of whatever they give away while they're there. Disastrous, this relationship with the French. It hasn't worked. It's not working. But when you've got people like that at the negotiating table, it's not going to work. But the reality is all of this is tinkering around the edges when it comes to dealing with the small boats crisis. We all know, everyone else at home knows, the only way to do this is for those people who come to this country illegally, who break in, to know that when they arrive, they will not be able to stay. Otherwise, they'll just keep coming in ever-increasing numbers. We've seen it with the boomerang scheme. They're in once, they're sent back, they come again because they think they'll get...
But then what do you make with respect by the ridiculous comments from Labour MP Emily Thornberry yesterday? I mean, honestly, talk about fury. My lot are up in arms. She says, and I quote yesterday, I don't know, we don't need to play the clip because I'll start getting angry. She says that every single migrant should be allowed to come, they should be allowed permanent residency and they should be able to claim benefits. I put this to you in the Conservative Party as I just put to Zia Youssef at Reform. How do they honestly expect alarm clock Brits, anybody that listens to this stuff, to be anything other than furious about something that, to me, don't know what you think, is a voter creation scheme? They've lost the Muslim vote to the Greens. They're now going to import the vote, are they, for the next election? It's outrageous.
Well, they're quite happy to dish out our dough. You look at the Labour Party is not the Labour, it's the welfare party. Can we put it perfectly? The benefit streets budget. If you work hard and you do the right thing in this country, you're paying more and more in tax. If you don't work, you're getting more and more in benefits. And now you've got Emily Thornberry saying we should give it out to anybody who happens to rock up in the country. What's that going to do? It's just going to encourage more people to make that journey. It's an absolute disaster. They haven't got a clue. But the reality is we're all paying the price for their ridiculous decisions.
Now, you saw the interview with Zia, and I like to try and balance it on this show. You'll have seen the EULA of the Clapham looting over the weekend and last night. As the sort of police minister, deputy police minister, shadow minister, I want to read you something from a mate of mine. Jez, I hope you read this, mate. The video of those kids is the start of criminality. It's the start of a life of crime, a look at the future in our inner cities. We would never do something like that as kids, as wrong. We knew it was wrong. Our parents would roast us if we brought the police to the door. It was a blight on family life to have a police car at your house. We weren't allowed to run feral and do what the hell we wanted. Where are the parents of these kids? How many of these kids, right? He says, if you look at those sorts of kids, they all come from a certain area. You can tell many of them are not working, all those sorts of things. He actually makes the point that the parents actually should be there for them, and they're not. Like me, yeah, Robbie, I get it. I can't read all of that. But I do believe, like Rob, that is a sign of things to come. Not a policeman or woman in sight. One man with a pair of cufflinks and handcuffs walking around. What would how are you going to deal with this, Matt? Do we not need to be stronger in this country?
So the thing is, when it comes to law and order in this country, everything is in reverse. Under the last government, whatever we might have got wrong, we got police numbers to a record level. Under the last government, there was more police on the streets of the United Kingdom than ever before, and rightly so. And what did we do on sentencing? We were locking people up for longer. Those people who committed some of the most heinous crimes were locked up for... That was the right thing to do. This Labour government has been in office 18 months. There are 1,318 less police officers on the streets already, the vast majority of them in London.
Sorry, I don't mean to stop you, but I'm just looking at this. If you're not watching on YouTube, youths in the supermarket just nicking stuff and 3 police trying to deal with it, hundreds of them. Why are they not scared of the police? I'll tell you, in my opinion, Matt, right? Because they know they're not. The police aren't going to turn up. They're not going to get prosecuted. They're not going to get a sentence. We need to toughen up in this country. I'd be building prisons, making people stand by the, having to serve the time that they do. I think you need to be fair. I think we've been as soft as anything for too long, and I think it's got to change. It's awful, those videos. Dreadful.
Entirely right. And now we're seeing the consequences of being too soft. I think taking more police off the streets is a disaster. I think shutting police stations down across London is an utter disaster and should be held accountable for it. But there is a wider societal issue. There is a challenge around youths and the family that they're brought up in, parental responsibility.
Yeah,
and what
Rob's right there.
It's a big issue to deal with. It's something we've got to deal with. And actually, when you see schools like the Michaela School in London, you see what that's doing about installing young people with the right sort of values. We need to look at that and what we can do to stop kids like that running feral and causing absolute havoc and heartache to anybody who happens to work in those shops, to anybody who happens to go shopping that day. Emergency service workers being assaulted down there.
Yeah.
Absolutely disgraceful.
Completely. I'm sorry, people will disagree with me. We were scared of the police. Something needs to happen in this country. Very quickly, before we move on, BBC, don't want to get into the specifics of Scott Mills. The BBC accused, quite rightly, of flip-flopping as ever. Can't make a decision. Did they know? Didn't they know? At the same time, they send 46 million letters to people saying if you don't pay our licence fee, right, we're going to prosecute you. Quick question to you and the Tories, Matty. Is it not time to take a really good close look and understand that most people in this country are not prepared to pay 180 quid for something that they don't watch? And is it not time for whatever the next government is to say, do you know what? We are going to decentralise, defund, change the rules, and the BBC is going to have to play on the same level playing field as the rest of us, because I think it's outrageous. I really do.
Do you know what? There are things that the BBC do, and the bits that they do well seem to be the bits that they're axing. The bits of
then buy them. What's the argument? All they ever do is say to me, traitors, and Strictly buy it then. I'm not buying their biased news. I'm not buying all the rest of the rubbish, and I shouldn't be forced into... I just don't understand.
But the bit that works well is the regional stuff that other larger organisations do, and that's the bit they're cutting. Ridiculously, that is the bit they're cutting. Meanwhile, you've got all these presenters on huge bloated wages at the taxpayers' expense. They're spewing out this vile stuff. We saw the Bob Villain stuff broadcast into people's homes. We saw the documentary with the Hamas terrorist son
voice over
in the thing and giving us his version of events. Utterly ridiculous, and we're paying for the pleasure, whether we want it or not.
Would a Conservative government defund the BBC and change the game plan next time round?
There'll definitely be a rethink on the BBC, what it is and isn't doing with taxpayers' money. Somebody said to me yesterday, do you know, he said about the fact that it was the price of a cup of coffee every week, and we said, well, actually, a cup of coffee, the thing with a cup of coffee is you don't have to go to Starbucks or Costa and buy the cup of coffee, but the cup of coffee also doesn't assault teenage boys. It's utterly ridiculous. The BBC has let itself down. It used to be a proud organisation that people could rely on for real, impartial information. It is no longer that.
Good man. We love having you on. You're in the studio next week. Matty Vickers, enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you, Conservative MP, Deputy Chair. He does absolutely everything. He's the main man. Deputy Chairman, thank you very much, Steve. Very quickly, morning, Jay.
Morning, Jez. Jay from Birmingham. If the despicable Emily Thornberry are so concerned about migrants and their welfare when they get here, why don't they take responsibility for paying them, for clothing them and for housing them? And let's see how welcome they are then when it falls to the politicians to take the action to look after these migrants. Because I can guarantee you now, it won't be popular.
Of course it won't be. It's easy to spout it, but it's difficult to actually see it through. 0344 499 1000. Let's move on. Don't know what's happening with this today. It's not my fault. Making a terrible noise in my ear again. The main news story of the day, all over the front of the newspapers, over the Sun today. You can see it. Beeb knew about Mills probe. Whatever your view about Scott Mills or not, to me this poses so many questions about the BBC. Delighted to be joined now by former Conservative MP, a man who knows all about people basically looking into your life and then changing direction. Harvey Proctor, former Conservative. It's been a while, sir. How are you?
Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers and listeners. I'm very well, and I hope you are too.
Harvey, the thing about Scott Mills is, for me, we can get entrenched in who said what. Did they know when they first took him to Radio 1? Did they know by leaving him on air, blah, blah, blah? But I'm going to start differently. I had a time where the press were after me. I don't need to go into detail. So did you. We don't need to go into detail. I think that whether the BBC knew or not, one of the main issues to come out of this is if you're in the public eye, is it fair that an accusation can be made against you, your name's the other person isn't, and if it's proven to be untrue, that person gets away scot-free, and yet your name is muddied. Now, I am not in any way, and this is really important, Harvey, not sticking up for Scott Mills because I don't know what the truth is. I think there'll be a big expose on Sunday. I think this is what's happening here. But I don't understand how this organisation apparently left him and now to carry on, and now have dropped him like a hotcake. For me, there has to be more. What's your view?
My view is the BBC have been dripping information into the media to cover the reason for his sacking. I don't know this man at all.
No.
I've never met him. I don't think I've talked to him. But what worries me, the BBC seems to be trampling all over the principle of until proven guilty. And they said to begin with that they knew about a police investigation or a police interview. Well, just because somebody is alleged to have done things doesn't mean to say that they have. Innocence is very important, and we seem to be drifting away from that cardinal principle, not just in criminal law, but in society as a whole.
You'll say, yeah, I mean, look, the premise of law in this country always should be and always has been innocent until proven guilty. That's why I made the point. It's not for me, Harvey, it's difficult because this is obviously ongoing. You know, in basic layman's terms, you'd go, right, so if he was investigated for serious sex offences against an underage boy and the police decided to look into it and threw out the charges or said there wasn't enough to go on, which is always a bit of a grey area, then that means that's done. I don't know. Have you watched the Hugh Edwards thing, Harvey?
I did watch the documentary on Mr. Edwards, yes.
I made a point yesterday, which now everybody's picking up upon, which is we reckon that actually maybe watching that has incentivised somebody to come forward. Maybe it's somebody else. I think nobody's said that. They're all going, well, he was found not guilty, or there was not enough to go forward with something in 2016. Maybe something else has come forward. I've no idea. The speed with which the BBC, though, this is my question to you, has done this, is it more about, and I could be totally wrong, forgive me, is it more about trying to get on the front foot, having been caught out with Savile and Rolf Harris and all those other vile human beings who should have been found out years before? Do you think this is the BBC trying, if you like, to clear the decks and be on the front foot?
I think it is. I think the BBC always managed to get things wrong. They're trying a catch-up here. But in doing that, they should preserve that principle of innocence until proven guilty.
So do you think he should have been left on air, Scott Mills, then, or not given the job in the first place because of what they knew about him?
Like you, I don't know the full facts. But if the BBC had any allegations of criminality, they should not have kept that to themselves.
No.
Should have submitted those allegations to the police, not form a judge and jury themselves in their own court.
In terms of, I mean, just a wider view, Harvey, and it's something that I'm passionate about for reasons that the BBC, when I was growing up, the parents would sit and watch the 9 o'clock news. That was what the BBC, you know, that was this sort of part of the United Kingdom. Irrespective of the fact there seem to be paedophiles and wrongdoers at every toss and turn, and they seem to be motivated by not making a decision, it is absolutely right, is it not, to say that their coverage, especially from their newsroom, is as bias goes. It is supposed to be, as the state broadcaster, straight down the line. My biggest criticism of the BBC is their inability. I mean, what was it? Don't call Hamas a terrorist organisation. Justify this. I don't believe they're an unbiased independent news broadcaster at all, and that's why I think things need to change, irrespective of how many wrong-uns are in their employ. Would you agree with that?
I do. I am grateful for this invite onto your programme. The BBC will not allow me to go onto any of their programmes live.
Why?
Because of what they did in Operation Midland. I don't want to go into Operation Midland, but because of what they did in Operation Midland in 2015, and they are frightened that I might say what they did live on one of their programmes.
Sum up in 1 minute. How would you sum up the BBC, Harvey Proctor?
Not an organisation fit for purpose.
How would you change it?
Well, I would certainly follow what you said in your introduction to this segment of your programme, namely, I would let the BBC live or die on the amount of commercial advertising that they can get onto their programme. At the moment, they might be writ small because I doubt that they get that much advertising, but I think they should be on equal terms with all other broadcasters, radio and television in this country.
Do you think if they were, they would survive? I mean, people always throw at me stuff that, I mean, I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again, they say to me, Strictly's great and Traitors is great. And I go, yeah, I'll buy that, but I'm not buying their biased news service. I'm not propping up their... I mean, how about this for irony, Harvey? A lot of people would say that the best parts of BBC are the local coverage, but that's what they're cutting back on, to pay these exorbitant salaries to people to sit in London and be part of something that can only be described as biased. I won't name the person, but I was talking to somebody from the BBC some time ago, and the way they look down their noses at the independent sector, oh, you're on that right-wing channel, aren't you? Well, actually, the thing about this channel is it allows people to come and have a discussion and a view about the day's news, which the BBC patently, from what you've said and what other people have said, doesn't allow. I do think it's time for it to change massively.
Yes, it's the British Bias Corporation.
Yeah, it is. It is. Harvey, it's always a pleasure, my friend. I know you had a hard time. It's great to have you on, and you're always very, very welcome to the Breakfast Show and Talk. Thank you so much indeed. Harvey Proctor, former Conservative MP. 12 minutes to 9 even. Well done, Jez. You can't tell the time. 0344 499 1000 is my telephone number. Text to 87222. We're back at 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 10 minutes to 9. We're live across the UK. A very good morning to you. It is the 1st of April. Yes, I know. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Loads to talk about. The BBC. What do you make of the BBC? Not a great look. The way the Scott Mills thing has highlighted yet more problems in an organisation that doesn't seem able to know which way to turn. Plus, they send 46 million households letters saying, pay our exorbitant licence fee even if you don't watch us, otherwise we'll prosecute you. Problems with NHS England today. Sir Jim Mackay of an organisation that even Starmer wants to get rid of, saying, don't panic, but maybe you should panic because we're going to run out of everything. Aspirin, codeine, antidepressants, HRT medication. Yeah, listen, we had COVID. The Iraq war's only been 4 weeks. I would respectfully suggest that's another plea for more money. I don't know what you think, but that's how I see it. And, of course, the French still getting 100 million a year for the migration control. Not that they're controlling anything. Talks ongoing. And Dame Emily Thornberry, a woman who divides opinion regularly, stands up in the House of Commons yesterday and says, I think that thousands of migrants should come. We should open our borders and we should give them permanent residency and put them on benefits straight away. Just my opinion, this. Not necessarily Talks, but I'm thinking to myself, They must be looking at what the Greens are saying, the Labour, and frighteningly saying, oh, how are we going to get those people? Is it not, in your opinion, voter creation, this? Come to our country, be given everything and vote for us. Dan, morning. The big question, JK, is whether Scott Mills told the BBC about the case, because if he did and got sacked, his lawyers are about to have a field day. If he didn't tell the BBC, it's all about whether the BBC knew about it and still employed him without talking about it. Listen, that story is going to run and run. My only view, and I'm not being disrespectful, is I know a little bit about life on this side, and I suspect, drip, 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 there will be a big Sunday exposure about this story, but we'll keep you informed of that. Bang & Olufsen is Danish, not German, you idiot, says Pete. Thanks very much indeed. Perhaps if the NHS wasn't so sodding wasteful, we wouldn't be running out of drugs. Very, very good. And hello to Chris from South, from Weston-super-Mare, who said, we don't sound like that down Weston-super-Mare. Great show, though. 0344 499 1000. Delighted to be welcoming my next guest, Conservative MP and Chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, Dame Karen Bradley. A very good morning. Oh, I can't hear you. Can I hear you now? Oh, God, the joys. Right, well, we saw that. Let's go to a call. Julie is in Maidstone. Julie, good morning. You're on Talk Breakfast.
Good morning, Jeremy.
How are you?
I'm good. You?
Yeah, I am. I've got 1 minute. What you got for me?
Wow, TV licences.
Yes.
We've got a cattery in Maidstone.
A what?
A cattery.
Right, what's that got to do with your TV licence, love?
Because we keep getting letters for it to say we haven't paid our TV licence for the cattery.
The BBC took a cattery, sent the cattery in Maidstone a letter saying it hasn't got a TV licence?
Yes.
It's like a comedy show, this show, isn't it? They sent a cattery. Who read... Can cats read letters from the BBC?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
So
it's got that bad. It's got that bad. We've got a red letter now. So I'm just waiting for them to try and take us to court. So that would be hilarious.
So you run a cattery, is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Right. This is the most bizarre call ever. Nobody obviously had a word with this lady, but Julie, I appreciate it, but Julie runs a cattery in Maidstone. If you want your cat looked after, they've received one of the 46 million letters sent by the BBC to people saying, if you don't pay your TV licence, we're going to prosecute you. Her point is, I'm not sure the cats would indeed be watching the television. Morning, Ken.
Morning, Jezza. Ken here in Dorset. Now, if you total up all of the BBC's outlets and stations, it comes to nearly 60. That's TV, radio, local, national, international. 60 channels. There can't be another broadcaster in the world that has as much reach as that. And its supporters say, oh, it's tremendous value. Well, back in the 70s, a Lada was tremendous value, but I chose to drive a Ford Cortina. Have a great show, Jez.
Thank you very much indeed. We've had some technical difficulties getting hold of Dame Karen Bradley, Conservative MP and Chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, so we put her on the phone. Karen, good morning. Sorry about that. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. I'm all right, thank you. It must be because I'm all the way in Staffordshire.
Oh, well, you know, it's Keir Starmer's fault because everything's crap in this country, let's be perfectly honest. Welcome to the show. There's this new report out today. Let's put this in layperson's terms because people get very confused. Combating new forms of extremism. Tell us more about this, if you can, Karen.
Yeah, so what we wanted to look at, Jeremy, was the committee did a big piece of work when we were first set up, looking at the policing of the disorder following the Southport attack. And while we were taking evidence on that inquiry, we heard a lot about the perpetrator in that case, the man who committed the violence, and how he'd been referred to Prevent but hadn't met the criteria for Prevent. And it struck us there was a piece of work to be done about those individuals who are have a predilection towards violence, but do not meet the criteria for Prevent because they don't have an ideology. They are not ideologically driven, they're just interested in violence. So we wanted to look at that and find out what was going wrong and what the government could do to support people who have that predilection, who possibly might commit violence and need an intervention, but are not being intervened on at the moment because the system just isn't set up for that.
What did you suggest to the government?
So we think that the government needs to have, I'm going to call it a triage system, a bit like you get when you go to A&E, you know. So there needs to be one place where teachers, parents, other individuals who are concerned about the behaviour of an individual can direct that individual, that individual can be assessed, and if they've got an ideology, if they are someone who might go into terrorism and be radicalised, put them in Prevent. Prevent does great work. Prevent does exactly what it should do.
Isn't it down with the greatest of respect? I mean, fair play what, in terms of what the Home Affairs Select Committee is doing, but if we're talking about children and young adults being drawn into extremism, I know I'm going to sound old-fashioned. I'd know if one of my kids was becoming an extremist or wanted to find sort of some ideology that was twisting their mind. Society seems to have changed. We always seem to find, the school's got to look, or politicians. What about parents? Am I missing the point?
No, parents as well. We want one place that people can be referred to.
Yeah.
And if it's counter-terrorism, if it's ideology that's driving them, then they go into Prevent. But if it isn't, they need somewhere to go. And at the moment, there isn't one place for people like the perpetrator in the Southport attack to go, to be given the support they need to get them away from this violence. And the problem is that the AI algorithms and everything else...
Yeah.
You know, we don't really even understand it properly. You know, this is something that is new. And when we set these systems up, we simply didn't have that kind of algorithms going on, which are driving people into, and I'm going to say it's predominantly young men, they are being driven into places on the web where they are then incited to carry out violence. They idealise the
Can I ask what might seem, I wish we had more time, but because of the technical problems we didn't, but can I ask something, and I'm not against what you're doing, because I think you're right, to be able to point to somewhere and get help instead of sort of blankness and not knowing where to go. Shouldn't we look at ways of preventing them rather than always suggesting where they should go? Is there not a way of preventing this ideology getting through to these kids, presumably men?
We want to do this as well. This isn't, you know, there isn't one answer to this problem. We need to work, the government needs to work with the tech companies to get these algorithms to stop directing young men into these areas where they are forced into violence. We need to find lots of ways of doing it, but this is just an area the government isn't looking at the moment.
Do governments tend to listen to the Home Affairs Select Committee?
Well, they're going to have to respond to us, so I hope they will, and I hope the Home Secretary and the rest of government will act.
I do a job where I'm told every single day, Karen, that the Home Office is not fit for purpose and that nothing ever changes. But when you see, and we've only got a minute, what went in Clapham over the weekend, those looting scenes, something has to give, doesn't it, in this country?
Look, the Home Office has an awful lot of problems in the Home Office, but, you know, this is one of the areas where they need to take some action. There are many other things they need to do.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for the technical difficulty. We'll get you on next time, but so we can see you as well. Is that all right?
No problem. See you.
Thank you. So Karen Bradley, Conservative Chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, trying to do some work to look into if your child, if somebody you know is becoming extremist through an ideology or just through the web or whatever, there's somewhere you can be pointed, because let's be honest, Prevent hasn't worked. It's almost 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Dan Hodges starts the next hour. The man who will not let Morgan McSweeney or Keir Starmer off the hook is back with an update. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222, and the news at 9 is next.
The crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royal Tea from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defense of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Mr Farage, would a reform government have allowed US forces to use UK air bases for offensive operations in Iran?
Yes is the answer to your question. I would have said to the Americans, please do use our bases. We will be supportive of you on this.
There were a series of very loud blasts in the area of Dubai that I'm based in. That's in the Marina area. It's a very touristy area, actually. Those blasts were the loudest we've heard yet, but equally we are reassured that they are most likely the sound of interception by the UAE's quite sophisticated THAAD interception kit. That is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defence System.
Very good morning, my friends. Welcome back. Just gone 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Talk, of course, is the home of common sense. It's the home of the alarm clock. Brit, your views on the news of the day. We want to hear from you this hour. 0344 499 1000. We'll talk BBC. We'll talk the King's trip to America, despite the fact that Starmer and Trump are not really talking very much. We'll talk about NHS England. We'll talk about the French still getting 100 million. We'll talk about Emily Thornberry. But first, we'll talk to a man who's become a resident feature. And I've even got people texting now with questions. Good morning, Dan Hodges, Mail on Sunday, and just general investigative journalist. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. Well, you?
Yeah, good. Before we get into, I love doing this. It's like being the Miss Marple thing, isn't it? Before we get more into Morgan McSweeney, I'd like your response to this. Carl Turner, who you know has been a real critic of Keir Starmer. He's been a critic of the jury trial's decision and certainly a critic of what he called the Morgan McSwindle lies, was last night informed of his suspension from the Tory party. He's had the whip removed, and he agreed to come on the show this morning, Dan. We received this, though, literally 20 minutes ago, and I know Carl, he's a good man. He says, Jez, I've been advised by my legal team, Hudgell Law, to limit media interviews until I have a full explanation as to why the whip is suspended. This has not been clarified to me yet. I await confirmation and clarification from the government chief whip. Sorry. It's interesting that, isn't it? So the only Labour MP that we had who would come on and support Starmer but be openly critical of certain things, gone. Slightly dictatorial, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's actually worse than that. And I think, you know, there's going to be a bit more about Carl Turner's suspension that's going to be coming out in the next 24 hours or so, which is going to leave some very serious questions for Downing Street to answer and Keir Starmer to answer in particular. Because as you've said, you know, I've known Carl for a number of years. He is not what you would call, or what certainly the Labour whips would call, one of the usual suspects. I mean, he's someone who actually used to have quite a good relationship with Keir Starmer on a personal level, and is somebody who is well respected across the House and by particularly by members of the Parliamentary Labour Party. And the way he was sort of suspended yesterday, as I said at the time, I couldn't believe it. I mean,
Do you know how he found out, Dan?
Yeah, he found out from us. He found out from the media. He found out from
my old producer on Drive Time. Ryan heard the news, phoned him up, and he went, "I didn't know about it."
Exactly. No,
ridiculous, man.
I spoke to him as well.
Yeah.
They apparently sent him a text message saying you've been suspended, but it just, his office hadn't got round to opening it yet. And obviously that happens frequently. I've got all sorts of messages still that sitting in my inbox that I haven't got to yet this morning. And the idea that you suspend somebody who's been a member of the Labour Party and a Labour MP for that length of time in that manner is frankly a disgrace. And
it is a disgrace, and it does point to this story. I mean, to me, whatever your political views, and a lot of people listening to this wouldn't agree with him, but so much support for him this morning, saying he's a top man. This, we are told, which is why it's great to have you on, was tied into his assumption, or rather his comment, that he believed that Morgan McSweeney, the ex-chief whip, we know about the phone story, it's a wonderful, wonderful scenario that won't go away, he thought it was a lie. I start with a question from Paul in Fife, who expected you to be on this morning. You said, Jez, a question for Dan. The Morgan McSweeney phone theft. This makes no sense to me. You do not require to physically have possession of the actual phone to retrieve the data. The service provider can be compelled to provide this data to the police or the security services or any other investigating body. Why has this not been done?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that with government-issued phones, and remember, this is a government-issued phone that he had.
Yeah.
My understanding is there is no backup. There is no external backup of government-issued phones, particularly in terms of WhatsApp messages, as your messages or my messages would be backed up to the cloud or whatever, because the government regulations say you cannot have sensitive government information stored on a third-party server. But in any case, the second thing is, the key thing is, obviously, when Morgan McSweeney contacted Downing Street and said my phone has been stolen, what we've been told is Downing Street's immediate reaction, or the security team in Downing Street's immediate reaction, was to shut down the phone, and in the process of shutting down the phone, to wipe all the data that was contained on it. So if we got the handset back now, there wouldn't be any record. But what that then raises, obviously, that has then led to a number of issues, which is, firstly, at the point in which Downing Street, wiped the phone, why did Downing Street and the Downing Street security team not contact the Met? Because at that point, they were unaware, as we are still unaware to this day, of who actually took the phone.
Yeah.
It could well have, obviously, there are some people who believe the phone may not have been taken at all, but if the phone had been taken, it could have been taken by some opportunistic street robber, or it could have been a targeted theft. Now, I wrote about this at the weekend. We all saw Al Khan's, the defence minister, and guy who potentially is quite keen and being touted as a potential successor of Keir Starmer, saying last week, "I'm not interested in phones. It's all gutter politics. I'm fighting two wars." Al Khan's and you and I and Morgan McSweeney and Downing Street and the Prime Minister and nobody else knows who's got this phone. That phone could have been potentially in the possession of China or Iran or Russia. But for some reason, Downing Street didn't seem to have any interest in that. Again, I wrote about this last week. I spoke to at least two people who previously worked in Downing Street who lost their mobile phones. They said the process was exactly the same. They contacted the police, they contacted Downing Street, the security team. Downing Street and the security team then contacted the Met, as you would expect, because they contacted the Met and said, this is the theft and loss of a serious government mobile. You need to invest. This is not just another bog standard theft. You need to investigate it. And in the first person I spoke to, when their phone was stolen because it had a tracking device on it, the police literally that day sent out an officer to the location of where the phone was pinging. Now, it was on a housing. It's the classic thing. It was on a housing estate. They couldn't locate it to an individual flat. Obviously, didn't have probable cause to go smashing into every flat on the estate, but they did actually take it that seriously. Now, these were people. The people I spoke to were people who were nowhere near as senior as Morgan McSweeney and Downing Street, and that was the second thing. We were told the phone was fitted with a tracking device. Morgan McSweeney, I think, told the police that the phone had a tracking device, but nobody attempted to identify where the phone actually was.
You've got two things for people tuning in, which and this fascinates me. Even Kemi Badenoch said something's fishy. You've got disappearing messages on government phones, and yesterday Kemi Badenoch actually called for that to change. She said that's utterly ridiculous. And I'm not a techie person, but listening to what you're saying, I'm thinking there must be a secure cloud or a secure system where government messages, think about what happened with COVID, what's happening with Sweeney, can go to, that can be stored for whatever reasons, the right reasons. But you're right, the tracker, he was told that he said there wasn't, nobody did anything, which brings us back round the whole time. And people are like, you're obsessed with this with Dan. Well, yeah, I am, because I think phishing is not even a description. I think we both think this is something that will ultimately be a massive, massive kick in the what's-its. Do you think there are more questions from Starmer on the way on this, Dan?
Oh, yeah, definitely, because the point is, the mobile phone theft, non-theft, is just a small part of the picture. And again, I wrote about this at the weekend. The key thing is the messages on McSweeney's mobile phone have been lost. We're also now starting to be told on this issue of disappearing messages that on emails, there is a 90-day auto-delete mechanism or system in place for government communications. Now, we would remember, this is an important point. We were told by Keir Starmer due process was followed in relation to the Mandelson appointment. We're now being told that the emails have been lost supposedly because of this auto delete. The crucial thing, again, as we reported in the Mail on Sunday, this Sunday, in addition to the work mobile that he was issued, Morgan McSweeney, when he was in Downing Street, was using not one but two personal mobiles that he used for government business.
Wow.
Now, there have been reports, and the reports again on Sunday, that it just happened to have an auto-delete mechanism on his personal mobiles, which meant that some of those messages had been lost. But here's a crucial thing, two crucial things. I know for a fact firstly, because I've seen some of the messages, he did not have as default auto delete on the first of his personal mobiles, which he has since deactivated. And he also didn't have auto delete set as default on the second personal phone, which he used, which I understand is still active, because again, I've spoken to people who can still see messages on those for him going back. So if they turn around and say, "Oh, unfortunately, those messages to Peter Mandelson were lost because they were on auto delete," well, they were selectively on auto delete. So that, but also the other crucial thing is, if you are using a personal mobile for government business, then you are obliged to ensure that a record of that communications is retained on the central government server. That is a very strict government regulation. So, but the point is, this is what's going to happen. We are going to get the release of the second tranche of documents in a couple of weeks. And the key thing for me is, again, it's this thing that I wrote about before. It's about the dog that didn't bark. It's not about what we're going to see. It's about what we're not going to see.
Yeah.
It's about where are the gaps. It's about where is the in-depth communication between McSweeney and Mandelson. Also, something people haven't been talking about. We're concentrating on McSweeney with Mandelson. Where's Keir Starmer in all this? This is the other thing I'm going to be interested to see. What communications are we going to see from Keir Starmer
to Morgan McSweeney? Is there a punishment for, just judging on what you were saying, is there a punishment for not keeping communications of your meetings and conversations in government? Would Morgan McSweeney be liable for prosecution?
Well, I don't think it's liable for prosecution, but the key thing is, this is the fundamental thing, and this is where I think this is going to boil down to. Keir Starmer said to the House of Commons, due process was followed. Now, if we get to a situation where Peter Mandelson was appointed ambassador to Washington, one of the most sensitive appointments in the diplomatic service,
just a bit,
and we found out that all the communication, or the vast bulk or a huge bulk of the communication relating to that appointment, has vanished because Keir Starmer, his aides, and Mandelson officials were not accurately recording the information relating to that appointment, then Keir Starmer is banged to rights lying to the House of Commons.
Just very quickly, and we'll let you go, but either it was not recorded, or and you know, at the risk of being accused of being conspiratorial, has been got rid of since this unfortunate incidents happened, because it's exactly what you said, which is, you know, we must remember he stood up in Parliament, Dan, you know this, and he said, "I will decide what messages are given to the police," and his own party and everybody went, whoa, hold on a minute, that's not right, and he had to backtrack. Now, they've gone back to wherever they've gone back to. Is this a concerted effort by many people to, if you like, get rid of evidence? That's the first thing. The final question for you, which I probably asked you before, I can't get me head round, more than anything in this story, that the Prime Minister of this country wants us to believe that he appointed, and you described it, a man with a track record of Peter Mandelson to one of the most, if not the most senior diplomatic posting in the British Isles without ever speaking to him about it.
Yeah. And obviously that's the question he refused to answer. Remember when Kenny Babbitt... Now, that's the thing. I mean, if that... But it's not just that he refused to speak to him. The question is, who did he send to speak to him on his behalf? Because if the only people he sent were Morgan McSweeney and Matthew Doyle, as has been pointed out, we know both of those men were close personal friends of Mandelson.
Yeah.
And in the case of Morgan McSweeney had been actively lobbying Keir Starmer to appoint Peter Mandelson for months prior to the appointment. And this is going to be one of the crucial things. We were told, by Keir Starmer, remember he said, "Oh, he lied to me. Peter Mandelson lied to me." Let's wait and see if he lied. Yeah. Let's just see how rigorously did Morgan McSweeney interrogate his good friend.
Do you think he'll be hauled before Parliament, before a committee, Morgan McSweeney?
You would expect so. I mean, we obviously saw what happened with Boris Johnson. I mean, the question is, never mind Morgan McSweeney, you know, we saw Boris dragged by Harriet Harman and her committee. And to be fair, they did a very, very good job in exposing Boris's lies over in relation to Partygate and other issues. I have to say, Harriet Harman seems to have been slightly more reluctant to get involved in this up until this point. So it'll be interesting to see.
it'll be really, really, this is probably the wrong question to ask you, but actually not, because I respect you as a journalist. If this is true, this will prove that the Prime Minister has lied. And for all that he threw at Boris Johnson and everything, that means that he has to resign as well, doesn't it? And that picture of him with his head in his hand, I mean, we are saying that this guy has been telling lies almost instantly since he came into office.
Well, the point is, we know for a fact now that he has lied, right? Just on a simple point of fact, he told the House of Commons that due process was followed in relation to the Mandelson appointment, and due process as it was followed in relation to the appointment of other ambassadors. Now, we know that's a lie. That has already been... most ambassadors are not appointed via a process in which two of their best friends go off, say to them, you got a couple of questions to answer, what do you think? And then they get appointed on that basis. That's not how that's not how the process normally works. But the question is, will he, I think it'll boil down to, will he do the decent thing? Will he do the honourable thing? And
resign.
I'll be honest, I thought he would have done the decent thing by now. I thought he would have walked over this a couple of weeks ago, because he kind of knew the game was up. But he's still digging in. So,
mate, it is fascinating to me, and we love to share this story with you. We'll get you back on next week. This is, as you quite rightly say, and by the way, read The Very Ladies with Dan in the Mail on Sunday, because this is not going away. And for people who go, why are you so fixated on this? Because our Prime Minister has lied already to Parliament, and if, and I thought your analogy is great. Hold on a minute. For all the thing, never before in history has a Prime Minister sent two of a man's mates to interview him for one of the most prestigious jobs in the world, and then apparently all the messages and anything that's involved with that process has either disappeared because of missing messages or disappearing emails or default settings. I mean, the whole thing, whoever you are, you look at it and you go, this smacks of lying, and it comes down at the end of the day to Keir Starmer. Dan, thank you, mate. I'll await Sunday, and we'll chat next week. Dan Hodges on Talk. 9:25. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Morning, Gary.
Good morning, Jeremy. Just waking up to hearing that the BBC allegedly knew about this. They just seem to think that they are untouchable. Oh, we've made another boo-boo. Oh, we've made another boo-boo. Oh, we've made another boo-boo. This is a state broadcaster who professes to be whiter than white. They are losing credibility week by week by week.
No-brainer, this, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually for years thought that it was illegal.
Yes.
for first cousins to marry, and it's really the first cousin end of it, which is very difficult. You're too close to each other in DNA. And this causes all sorts of issues and problems. We've seen it, you know, it didn't even have to be a scientist to know that there were problems with this kind of relationship. And so all of that has to be dealt with. So I'm with her in saying that I think it's wrong. And it's not aimed at only one group. No. You know, everybody should face this. We all have the same problem.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, welcome back. A message from home. Oliver, not at school. Oliver's just smashed a window in your kitchen, Jez, with his basketball. He's a kid, it's fine. Mate, don't worry about it, we'll sort it. Ollie, I love you and Rusty. No, it doesn't matter, Robert Jobson does it. What's a window? He's got a basketball, it's fine.
It's just a window.
Your mum does everything. Your mum will put a new pane in, she'll glaze it up, she'll get it all sorted. Don't worry about that, be fine. Yeah, don't worry about it, Ollie. Go and have a nice day. That was a really balanced approach. Robert Jobson, the legend, the author of The Windsor Legacy, Everything Royal. I was just been away to Barbados. He's got a gig. Tell him about this gig. This is brilliant.
Good. I was lecturing on the Cunard Queen Victoria, and it was fantastic. It was Bridgetown to Tenerife, and fantastic.
Bridgetown, Barbados, the only cricket ground in the country, in the world, where my father, God bless him, the late Patrick Hall, got a test match stopped because he didn't accept that you couldn't smoke in the toilets, and the alarm went off. Fantastic. Robert, so much in the news at the moment about the royal family. We've talked incessantly about Harry and Meghan. We've talked incessantly about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. We haven't talked for ages. Let's start with King Charles. He will go to the US at the end of April for a state visit. Trump has invited him against a slightly difficult backdrop. Grumpy Trumpy and Keith Stalin, as I now call him, not the best of mates. I know it's a constitutional monarchy, but is King Charles being used by Keir Starmer in this instance?
Without a doubt. I mean, the fact is the job of the Prime Minister is to protect the King from situations like this. He's using him politically. I can't see that they would have used the Queen in the same way. But the reality is I think that Trump and King Charles are both grown-ups. I'm sure that whilst he's there, they won't stray into areas he's not allowed to. As soon as the King gets on his flight to Bermuda, Trump's bound to say that Starmer's a loser and make various comments. But the reality is, really, given what he's been saying about Canada, when he said, it's the 51st state and all sorts of things, it's a tricky one for Charles, but I'm sure he'll be able to
Well, there's a lot of people asking, and you'd know, I don't. Has there ever been a precedent where, not a president, a precedent whereby, the King so loathes the US president, or there's nothing in common that a Prime Minister would say, will you? And a monarchy's ever gone, no, I bloody well won't. I'm sorry, I'm all for this country, but I'm not sitting around a table with somebody who goes against almost everything I believe in.
I'm sure he's had his private moments, the King, but the reality is, the reality is he has to go. The Prime Minister's asked him to go. He's there to do his job, really, effectively. But I'm sure he'll do it well, and I think it'll go pretty straightforward. He's going to have to make an interesting speech at Congress. I think that'll be quite powerful. But it's come at a time, of course, where, the relationship between the so-called special relationship is an all-time low.
Well, that's the other thing. The special relationship is at an all-time low, but it's more than two men, isn't it? And the special relationship between our countries in terms of security and all those sorts of things should supersede. But there's no doubt, when he said last night, Grumpy Trumpy, get your own oil, that the reality is about to hit Keir Starmer, I think.
Well, the reality is, the King is the titular head of the armed forces as well, and he's been slagging our position off quite a lot, Trump. So it's going to be I'm sure that the King won't just sit there and take it. And any conversation.
Can he bite back at all?
Yeah, he can in private. And I'm sure that he's smart enough guy to be able to take to Trump. I hear what you say, but.
For me, the Trump started to go wrong when he insulted our troops in Afghanistan. We lost over 400 soldiers, men and women, and that's beyond the pale. I supported him when he said we should pay more into NATO. And I actually, weirdly, I agree with Starmer that it wasn't a case of going straight in, but he pontificated about the bases.
I think the basis was a mistake, in my view, but I think...
Of course,
I think the basis was what he was talking about.
Course,
I think that's the thing that shocked Trump, actually.
Yeah, that he said no. What's this about the King and Queen Queen. They were asked by a US Congressman, Ro Khanna. He wrote to the King calling for him to meet survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, the Epstein scandal, during the state visit. But they will not be able to meet them, according to a new report.
Yeah, well, they can't meet them. I mean, the reality is there's ongoing investigations going on here, and if he does say anything, or the people after the meeting, even if it was private, said anything, it would lead to compromising any investigations that are going on here.
What's your view? I've spoken to so many, but not you. You've been on your cruise, you lucky bugger. But, I mean, the whole Epstein thing, let's start with Mountbatten Windsor. We can joke about the caravan and the chef and I mean, most of my lot are saying to me, disgraced in an exile, he's got a chef and a valet, for goodness sake. But there's other people who write and say he seems to have got more than anybody, and there's other people who text and go, this man should be in jail. Where's your head on this, Robert?
Well, I hear what everyone says, but I'm not a great believer in a witch hunt, and I do think that his mistakes have been made. He hasn't been proved guilty of anything at the moment, but I do believe that his relationship with Epstein was abhorrent and the King took the right action. But I'm not too comfortable, and I'm not in any sense of people trying a case in the media or trying a case against him, because, you know, it may well be that there are no charges brought against him.
Well, I can tell you, and I'm not a lawyer, I could tell him absolutely by driving to Sandringham right now that if charges are brought against him, I can get him off, because you know what he'll do, don't you?
Yes,
he'll do what Burrell said,
exactly.
as I told my brother.
I told the Queen, I told my brother.
Absolutely.
And there is no way that case can go ahead. So, you know, this is the problem. The King's in this position, and I'm sure that means relations are all-time low. But I can't personally see... You know, the greater problem with Epstein is the sexual charge, and the sexual, that's not going to even come to light. You know, Virginia Giuffre Robinson's dead, and tragically took her own life. That's not going to happen with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. That case has not even been looked at.
What do you say to the people, and this might seem hard questioning, it's not, I'm a royalist, as you know. What do you say to the people who will say, well, we need more transparency to support the monarchy in future, and at the moment, our king is currently harbouring and paying for a criminal. In our eyes, people are saying that.
It's the biggest problem they've got. I mean, the fact is, $12 million or pounds, it's never been confirmed, was paid. The Sun said $2 million of that was coming from the King, the rest from the Queen.
But you're not going to give anybody, and I love the woman, you're not going to give anybody, even your son that you're blinded in love with, 12 million quid without asking questions.
Who would? And you say you don't even know who the person is. It's nonsense. So
it's ridiculous.
The fact is that's hush money, whatever way you want to look at it, and the reality is people don't accept it, and I agree with them. I think that the man is abhorrent, but you know, we have a practice in this country of you're innocent until proven guilty.
So the Crown is harbouring, in effect, a suspect, a criminal suspect.
The Crown has to become more transparent. The Crown has to open. It can't keep having all this redacted stuff. And I'm not just talking about Mountbatten Windsor. I'm talking about other things to do with money, to do with the way that we do business. And
but we'd never have said this unless this happened.
And we can't have a situation in Parliament where MPs cannot criticise the Crown or cannot criticise members of the Royal Family, even serving members of the Royal Family, because otherwise you get situations like this. Transparency is important.
It's really interesting, because in all the times we've spoken, you and I have probably changed in the last couple of years, and that's the only way for the monarchy that we both support to survive. And I get, you know, people will say, what else is Charles supposed to do? I'm going to ask the obviously difficult question. People will say, how long have they known? I think the question that's not asked enough is that they must be absolutely terrified that if he goes down, he's going to squeal like a pig. How much has he got on his brother? I'm being completely serious without trying to find a headline.
I mean, to be honest about things, if you look at the situation that the King had a good friendship with Jimmy Savile, he advised on his relationship with Diana.
What about the pictures of him with £3 million in his paper bags?
You also had Bishop Ball, who was a friendship. So there are questions on a lot of the side. But what you have to be sensible about, I think, is that we're seeing a lot in the media as well. You do have to have evidence of guilt, and at the moment in time we're all just jumping to conclusions. We haven't looked at the evidence, and of course we're not allowed to see it half the time because of the Royal Family are not included in all in things like, you know, there are all these redactions and all these files that are kept secret. I think that's gone now, and I think Prince William's going to have to do anything going forward is to change that.
I haven't spoken to you about this. I said something a couple of weeks ago and people went, whoa, and then people said we agree. I believe that in the end this will not go away, and it might be that our king has to move to the side, citing his ill health, and wipe the slate completely clean with William and Kate. And that is, in my opinion, if it gets bad, that would make the monarchy survive. Would he do that for the monarchy, King Charles?
I don't think so, but I think if it was a situation where the money is proven that he paid, and that this means that there's not justice taken against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he may not have a choice. But he's got the ultimate, position. He's not well. He's
that's what I'm saying.
And I do think the monarchy needs a lift. I think that, and one thing that is good about the monarchy is William and Catherine. I think that people respect them, and they do a good job. It does need a lift. Since the death of the Queen, we've had scandal after scandal, cover-up after cover-up, and I think paying hush money is simply abhorrent.
Here's a question, is it true? So, somebody said this morning this is an April Fool. So, a couple of weeks ago, with everything that's going on about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, we talked Fergie, and suddenly the girls are in the spotlight, Eugenie and Beatrice. Suddenly there's stories about all their marriages and they're going to move out the country. I did an interview and I went, how can you... What sort of mother takes an 8 and 10-year-old to... And whoever it was said to me, no, they were 18 and 20. And the light's been shone on these two. This morning, it's reported that he will invite Eugenie and Beatrice to Royal Ascot, having said a week ago that he wouldn't. Is that an April Fool's story? Is that true?
Well, I think we'll have to wait and see. I think the fact is that the best place for them is away from the spotlight at the moment. The reality is 18 and 19, 18 and 20, you're perfectly able to make a decision.
Absolutely.
I said to my son, I'm going to meet up with a guy that's just been convicted of this. He's just out of prison. We'll be the first people to meet him after his prison sentence.
Should we fly 6,000 miles and
get him to pay for it?
Yeah.
And then ask for an upgrade. I don't think my son will be coming with me and be questioning my ability to make good judgments.
Of course, he'd be questioning integrity. Do you think they're up to their necks in it, money-wise, as well?
We don't know. We have no evidence, but I would say that they had enjoyed an awful lot of holidays when they were on very limited money in those days, if you look at the places they were going. But at the end of the day, the whole business of finances of the Yorks is incredibly murky. And
I lived a mile from York Fork. Monstrosity, looked like Tesco's. Everybody would talk about it the whole time. They managed to sell that for $3 million more than it was worth.
Well, and where did all this money go? I mean, the reality is the Queen was propping up Andrew for many, many years. He was paying a peppercorn rent at Royal Lodge. She used to pay, I think it was £50,000 for gurus to come over from India to do his massages. And that was coming
all the way from India or Soho.
And then the King put a stop to that when he found out, when he saw the bills. But the Queen was letting this go through. I really don't understand how that happened. But is he going to get done for these things? I don't think he'd be charged because, as you say, there's so many areas that his lawyers can use.
And I still maintain, listen, just in the small stories that the old man used to tell me, I still maintain that there's probably a lot on all of them. And I mean, that Fergie's the other one I want to ask you about quickly. No, I mean, ridiculous. The story this morning is she shacked up with Andrew. Apparently, nobody's seen her since September, but you can bet your bottom dollar that she's basically planning a book, and if I was the royal family, I would be terrified about what would come out.
Yeah, I mean, that's their only course of action.
No other, that's it. That's her payday, isn't it?
She's got no other money. She's got no other money coming in. It depends what she's got to say, but we've just seen that that this is, she has got the inside track on everything.
Fergie's, I mean, do you think that she'll get a book? Would somebody give her a book deal? You'd know about that sort of stuff.
I think, of course, they would if the money was right. I mean, the reality is, with these situations, that she was on the inside track, and she was not only on the inside track, and then was put out to put on the outside. They invited her back in.
Yeah.
She was back at Sandringham, when the King came, and when the Duke of Edinburgh's life, it was never going to happen. But she was allowed back in the inner circle.
Yeah.
So she was there listening and watching when all the issues was going down with Harry and with Meghan, and she was fully aware of everything.
Let's finish with that, just to finish in a bad way. Apparently, I mean, honestly, anything that comes out of their mouths I don't believe. I always believe there's an ulterior motive. Apparently, they'd like to be invited to Sandringham. That's not going to happen, is it?
Well, that's just PR playing games. I mean, his PR's saying, somebody's asked the question, and they've just said, well, he would like to be invited. I make an interesting dining table, but I don't think it's going to happen because you've got his king's got to please Camilla, he's got to please William.
I've got a theory anyway. I believe that he knows that when his brother becomes king, he's history. And I think he's trying to sidle up to his father under the guise of getting to back into a relationship with him.
He needs to be in the circle. He needs
He's
to
never
be
going to be in
part
the
of it.
circle. We don't trust him.
He needs to be in it to have currency.
I can tell you how you get in the circle, and you know it. There's only one way you can get back in the circle, and that's to ditch that woman.
And would he get back even then? I'm not even sure. A lot has been said. It was his book, remember, not her book.
Do you think that they would look differently on him if he was divorced from her?
Yeah.
That's what one of the last things the old man said to me. He'll be back in England, the ginger one with his tail between his legs within 5 years, and she'll have 2 kids, and she will absolutely rinse the royal family.
But would William forgive Harry for everything? I don't think so necessarily. I think he's quite he's quite solid with these things, and he hasn't really shown any sign of reconciliation when his father has.
So you don't think he'll ever forgive him?
I don't think so, no.
I have to say I completely agree with you. Mate, I've missed you, but you've been boating round the butt. Where are you going now, then? Are you off on another cruise?
Actually, I'm going to go to... No, I could call you from America, because I was going to cover the King's visit in Washington. Then I'm going to go to a place, LA, to have there's a big dinner with Andrew Morton and I. He's asking me questions. And then I'm off up the coast of Alaska.
Do you see, there's something really wrong with my life. Ring us from America, yeah?
Yeah, from America, yeah.
Good man. Yeah. Robert Jobson, Royal Editor, the man. The Windsor Legacy, go buy, it's fantastic. 17 minutes to 10.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 9:45. Talk breakfast almost done for another day. Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10 o'clock, sounding no doubt fantastic and dealing with all the stuff you need to know about. From 1 o'clock, it's Ian Collins and Kev O'Sullivan on Drive from 4 o'clock. If you want to be on any of those shows, don't forget throughout the day, your views on the news of the day is what Talk is all about. And I was saying earlier, I'm going to say it again, all this tripe about, Scott Mills and BBC Radio 2, can I just point something out, right? I'd just say this again, and it's my new mantra. If you want news and politics and views and involvement and your chance to have your say, you'd make it Talk, wouldn't you? At breakfast. I mean, you would, wouldn't you? If you wanted sport, you'd make it Alan Brazil and Ali McCush. You'd make it Talk Sport, right? The best. And if you wanted music, you wouldn't be listening to radio, so you get the king of radio. You get a Chris Evans. The three of us are sat in the line in this bloody building. So just flick. I mean, Chris doesn't start till 6:30. You can tell who the big star is. Me and Big Al are on at 6. But anyway, just take your choice. It'd be lovely. Morning, Kerry.
Morning, Jeremy. Might I make a suggestion on the youth issue? Perhaps we should allow parents to discipline their children again. And if they misbehave in public, send the bill to the parents, because parents need to step up here. I bet 90% of those kids, their parents didn't even know where they were. There's your problem. Kiri in Coventry.
I've got to say, this is about the Clapham looting, and we talked about the police being stronger. I would stand shoulder to shoulder with Kerry. I know I get called every single name in the sun when I say this. I say my kids wouldn't take drugs because they know exactly what I do, and I say my kids wouldn't do that because they know exactly what I do. That has gone, by the way. Not being scared of your parents, but respecting your parents. The whole family fabric's broken down. And I get really hacked off when people say, oh, well, it's about school. No, it's not. It should start at home. You're absolutely right. Where were their parents when that marauding bunch of unwashed, useless human beings were running around the streets? My old man wouldn't... I can't... Maybe they're all nodding through the glass because we were the same. We were brought up differently. Before I finish today, you'll know the news yesterday that the grooming gangs, or rather rape gang inquiry, finally started. Baroness Longfield, yesterday we were talking about... She was very outspoken and said, you know, terms of reference, I will be talking to police officers who patently failed, and they were more worried about upsetting certain sectors of the community. I'm going to give it my all. I'm delighted to be joined, albeit briefly, Jonathan Taylor now, child safeguarding consultant, former detective, 15 years experience in child abuse investigations. Jonathan, good morning, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jeremy.
I only come from this by under these two rules. One is, as a father of 6, I don't care the colour of your skin or where you come from. Any abuse against a child is abhorrent, and those heinous crimes should be dealt with. I'm aware, though, that there are many people... I mean, I spoke to a detective, a really senior police detective 3 years ago on this very station, and I asked about Rochdale and the grooming gangs, and he said to me something I've never forgotten, which is, the thing is, Jez, it's taken us 8 years because we didn't really want to upset a certain section of the community. That is patently and fundamentally wrong. This... I hope isn't a whitewash. It's going to cost 65 million quid. It's going to take till I'm probably dead. But the truth is, they need to address the questions that need addressing, don't they, Jonathan?
100%, and I agree with those comments. The thing we have to understand here, you know, we've got the issue of ethnicity, religion, but we've also got the fact that these are organised crime groups. It's not, I mean, I worked many years in child exploitation. So the minute you get organised crime groups, what happens then? You have a wall of silence. But this is actually goes over into the police, it goes into social services, it goes into the local councils. So, I mean, I know Baroness Longfield, I've worked with her, I've been to many conferences with her, and I've got faith in her. But the problem is, as you quite rightly say, we're now going back over 40 years. And of course, we've just recently had all these issues about the possible loss of evidence, which could have happened. You know, 7 months wait or 7 months delay in actually of this evidence. So my worry now is that if you look at survivors who've lost trust, are we actually going to be able to identify any of the actual people who are responsible? That is my biggest worry, because there will be a wall of silence. Because some of the evidence that might have been lost, Jeremy, it could be emails. This is going to be fundamental in the cover-up done by organisations because of the issue regarding religion, regarding ethnicity in, you know, one of or nearly all of the 50 towns this has occurred in.
It's easy to sit here, Jonathan, and pontificate, and I completely get that. And like you, I welcomed Baroness Longfield's opinions. Please God it happens. I tell you why. Because, again, the silent majority would answer what you quite rightly said. You know, you said we've got ethnicity, we've got religion. In millions of people's minds, and certainly in mine, is, no, we've got the rape of young girls. And the impact for those victims is lost, it seems, in this I mean, I consider this one of the biggest stains on our society and our history ever. I cannot, in my mind as a father of 6, I've said it repeatedly, imagine that anybody, and we can look up above and senior politicians, but you quite rightly pointed out, social services, local authorities, local medical institutions, local... I'm not altogether sure how any part of any of those people can look themselves in the mirror. We talk about how a government's responsibility is to, you know, protect its people. Well, you're not protecting young girls who were raped, and the very least these girls need, without any shadow of a doubt, is justice. I don't even know, this is my problem, Jonathan, without imploding, I don't even know why it's so difficult. I don't care what the colour of your skin is or your religion. I'm going to find you. But you make the point that ranks are closed and it becomes ever more difficult. But that says an awful lot about where we're at.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when it comes down to this child exploitation, whether online grooming or grooming in the real world, or, as I've said here, organised crime group type grooming, this is power, absolute power over vulnerable young white girls. That's the whole thing we've got to look at. Now, Baroness Lovehill, she's there with Zoe Billiam and Eleanor Kelly. If they ask the right questions, what we will then understand is there a cover-up? Because you'll hear these witnesses just go silent, basically. There's a bit of an oxymoron there. They won't say anything, or the evidence will prove that there was a big, if you like, cover-up during the time because of, and why? Well, that's going to be down because of the areas and the worry by politicians, by the police, by social services about losing their jobs. And as I say, organised crime groups, that's a lot of money there as well. And there was a lot of money here because all the actual perpetrators were coming from all over the area, knowing that they could go in and abuse and rape young girls.
I just, to me, it's so abhorrent, mate. It's so wrong, and it's so fundamentally alien to how I see that I don't understand how the might of every part of our being has not come down and crushed these people. Without wanting to get political, I just wanted to ask you a question. Why do you think there's such a problem with grooming in the BBC, by the way?
Position of trust, a bit of power there. Jeremy, you've actually got this. We've just, obviously, we've had all the history when it's got things like going back to the Jimmy Savile inquiry, etc., the Hugh Edwards, and now, of course, it could be something to do with what we've heard recently. No, it is about power, it is about position, and certainly when you look at the Hugh Edwards being portrayed at the moment on television,
did you see that, by the way? Did you see it?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I was sort of involved. I had to go through all the logs to have a look at the evidence side of it, and that was classic grooming, whether you like it or not. It really was.
Do you know what I thought most sad about what that programme did, and I salute Channel 5 and Martin Clunes for that, I thought it was amazing, is the sadness of that, which is what I wanted to finish with today in terms of grooming, was that boy who just wanted a new pair of trainers, who was spectacularly, revoltingly groomed by Hugh Edwards. It destroyed his family. His family stays strong. That's not why the paedophile Edwards went down. Well, he didn't go down, did he? He got a suspended sentence. That's another story. But he got prosecuted simply, quite rightly, for looking at images of young kids from another paedophile. And this kid, his life, I mean, he turned it round, and the story was told through the prism of his experience. But the fact of the matter is, he and his parents weren't given any help, and he wasn't prosecuted for that grooming. And that's what is fundamentally wrong. And that's what I think that's what you've got with the Scott Mills thing. I think somebody's come forward on the back of that, in my humble opinion.
And to show the power of and the want behind these perpetrators is the fact that a lot of the Hugh Edwards contact with the victims was done during COVID, when we couldn't travel anywhere. Yeah. But guess what? He could, because he was allowed to go to Windsor, go to Cardiff, because he was on the back of I'm working, and that's where he was doing some of the meetups.
Mate, it's a real pleasure to have you on. I wish we had more time, and I'd be delighted if you came on again, but I thank you for now. Jonathan Taylor, brilliant. Jonathan, child safeguarding consultant, a former detective with 15 years experience in child abuse investigations. Thank you to him. 5 to 10. Morning, Rick.
Morning, Jezza. It's Rick in North Wales. Just on the TV licensing front, I cancelled mine about 10 years ago and I've never been bothered. If you go on the website, there's actually a form that you fill out to say, I do not need a TV license. So you're completely within your right to not have a TV license. All you do is you fill in this form, and this form you have to confirm you do not watch TV, live TV that is, and you do not watch iPlayer. Now, 10 years ago, those were the only options. You don't watch iPlayer, you don't watch live TV. Now they've snuck in a little thing that says, and you do not watch any live stream on any laptop or phone device, on any channel like YouTube, maybe even Talk, I am assuming, Netflix, all those kind of things. And when I saw that, I was fuming.
breaking news and Talk Breakfast. 2 men, aged 47 and 45, have in the last hour been arrested in connection with the Golders Green arson attack. To me, symbolising absolutely a rise in anti-Semitism. Again, nothing from the government.
Breaking news for you. It's just a small matter. They have just an announcement saying transgender girls, i.e. boys, they must leave Girl Guiding by this September the 6th.
We are buying from Norway because they fully exploit their share of the North Sea oil and gas fields, and we don't. Alice in Wonderland nuts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 12 minutes. Do you know what? Can I just say, I'm going to put my hands in the air. Oliver is 6 years of age and he's completely and utterly got his 60-year-old dad. That was a bloody April Fool's about